Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались з кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там пивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 827 of the news. And it's good to see you all once again. And Ukraine is smashing the Kerch crossing, and also Putin's precious mansion has been destroyed. And it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine, as we've seen U.S.-made ATACMS missiles landing just 2 miles away from the Kerch Bridge, knocking out the Russian ferry crossings that have been used by the Russian armed forces since the beginning of this year in a large form. We were also able to see that Ukrainian drones flew over the Kerch Bridge to the Taman oil depots, destroying oil silos there today. We were also able to hear, although I do not have this down on the map right now, that a side building at Putin's palace along the Black Sea was hit today by a drone, caught on fire, and burned to the ground. We also got to hear other major news from inside the Russian Federation, that a major building inside of Moscow was on fire. We were also able to get unbelievable news. This is something I never even thought we would see this early. The Ukrainian counteroffensive in Vovchansk has begun, and in a single day, from what we have been able to find out, the Ukrainian armed forces have completely pushed the Russian army out of the city. They are now on the very outskirts. They are back at the meatpacking plant, and they are going to be out of the city most likely within the next few hours. There has been huge, unbelievable news today. Absolutely incredible news from start to finish. And that is just covering the main bulletin points. We still have loads, an endless amount of news from everywhere else in Ukraine, from Sevastopol, from the front lines itself, to the location unknowns, to information that we also got that I didn't include on the map again about U.S. and Western support as a whole today. A lot has happened. And we're going to be getting into it immediately, into the area of the Kerch Strait, because this is probably, outside the Vovchansk offensive, probably one of the, you know what, no. I'm actually going to leave this hype news for a second. We're going to build up to this, because everything that happened in the Kerch Strait overnight was insane. So we're going to actually move up to the other major hype up news tonight, which is in the area of Vovchansk. And I do not know if Deep State UA is reflecting this yet. And let's see if it is. And so let me see, what is it showing over the past 24? It still actually has not updated for the past 24 hours. So right now they're showing no frontline change, but I have a feeling that when they update, everyone's going to be for a shock, because this area here, this area inside of Vovchansk that is currently on the map being controlled by the Russian Federation, along with this larger area of the northern end of the city here, has been liberated today. Ukrainian armed forces have conducted a lightning campaign inside of the city to directly fight the Russians, not outflanking them, a head-to-head fight, very rarely ever seen in this war, where the Ukrainians succeed in an open fight like that, where it's a head-to-head blunt force attack. They wiped the Russians off the map. They are currently, right now, only in the northern area of Vovchansk at the meatpacking plant, and have been pushed out of the rest of the city. We were able to get that news today from Euromaidan Press that stated that the Ukrainian counteroffensive in Vovchansk has begun, and it is restoring bridges and concentrating troops. Russia attempts a defense, destroying bridges, but Ukraine has adapted to that immediately and has already continued to make progress through the city. This is Euromaidan Press's update on what the frontline map currently looks like right now, and from what we understand, the Russians only control the meatpacking plant, and beyond that have been completely pushed out in a single day. They went from...
The tables really turned on that, didn't it? Because, you know, it started off with the Russians saying, oh, look, we've taken Vovchansk. We're literally plowing through to Kharkiv, and that was like a big deal. They were like, oh, we've taken it. And now all of a sudden they've lost it. That was their big propaganda win, was taking Vovchansk, and now they've even lost that. So it's like, how's it really going for Russia out there? And why do those losses look so high if they're doing so good?
And also another thing is that they never really took Vovchansk. They only took about a third of it, or even a quarter of it, because there still is a massive part of the city that they have never touched. Here to the southern area right here, near to this railway station, they never touched any of this across the river. And not only that, the deepest they made it into in the northern part of the city was towards the central hospital right here, which we can see both of them have been updated to be temporarily closed due to Russian occupation. But they ought to be reopened very soon, although they have been heavily damaged by Ukrainian bombings and Russian artillery strikes through different parts of the battle. this is going to end up being a Ukrainian victory in the city of Vovchansk. Right now, Russian forces are focalized around this meatpacking plant, and this is the famous meatpacking plant that everyone's been talking about for a while in the city of Vovchansk. Not only that, they are apparently stuck up in the allotment area up here, really the storage compartment area of the city as well, and these few streets along this major roadway, Soborna Street, that goes through the middle of Vovchansk and then on towards the actual border region with the Russian Federation. That is all that is left of the Russian holdings in Vovchansk. Every single other one of them has been wiped out as of today by Ukrainian forces conducting a counterattack. And we were able to get a little bit of footage of this from Next to TV on Twitter, showing the Ukrainian National Police showing the battle for the city from their perspective. A lot of people are also going to be shocked by that. They're going to be going, wait a minute, the police were fighting the Russians. Yes, the police actually serve as a light infantry force in some instances in some areas of the front line, and the Ukrainian police forces were actually involved in the counteroffensive today that drove the actual Russian army out of the city. So, and this is something that you would always think. You would always think that the armed forces in between the police and the military would be like rock, paper, scissors, and paper would always beat rock, and that means the military would always beat the police. But what's crazy is that the Ukrainian police opened up a can of whoop-ass on the Russians and actually helped in pushing them out of the city today. So here is the clip published by this detachment of the Ukrainian police. Now, I'm going to have to sadly mute this, but we can see here the city of Vovchansk, of course, still being heavily shelled by the Russians and the Ukrainians on both ends, trying to break the deadly stalemate that has occurred in the city for several days, almost a week at this point, as the Ukrainian push begins to slowly grind its way forward and northwards through the city. And we can see here the cameraman of this police detachment watching as they fire rifle grenades into Russian houses. And we can now see the Ukrainian infantry here on film advancing onto this Russian building that they just fired the rifle grenade into and continuing to bombard it with small grenades. We can also see right there it may have been hit by an RPG. And we now see them firing a machine gun at the building as well, peppering it with somewhat intermediate cartridge fire. We can then see that the Ukrainians are now advancing directly onto the house to begin a direct assault of the Russian forces inside. We can now see them surrounding the basement entrance, and it appears that they're getting ready to throw in a grenade. And it looks like
these are the police that we're watching right here, you said?
These are the popo, Matthew. These are the straight-up popo of Ukraine that are beating the Russian army's ass in Vovchansk. I'm not even kidding. You can't make this stuff up.
And the Russian police definitely couldn't pull anything like this off, because the Russian police couldn't even hold off the Wagner forces in their own country. But yet the Ukrainian police are out here just killing it, literally.
Dude, wait a minute, hang on. Dude, let me go get the, one second, stupid Mickey, versus Chad Mickey. One second, you probably already know what I'm about to pull up here. Let's see. Dang it, man, I can't find it. But there's like this brain dead Mickey Mouse versus this extremely swole Mickey that's like lifting weights. And that is like the difference in between the Russian police and the Ukrainian police. Russian police can't even go up against Wagner. Ukrainian police will fight the actual Russian army and beat them to death in the middle of the city. And so we can see that they tossed a grenade in, it explodes, and now the Ukrainian police are now going to be moving into the basement and clearing the building from there. And also a massive shout out to Kimberly Brokaw. Thank you so much for the massive support. And moving on from that, we can now see them moving into the building. We can see a screening force outside, making sure that no Russians attempt to run around the building and towards the Ukrainians that just entered. And we can see them lobbing in grenades onto the top floor where the Ukrainians are not at the moment. And we can see
I saw in Hanson saying in the live chat, these Ukrainian police said, "Come out with your hands where I can see them." Throws in a grenade, and they're not throwing in those tear gas or flashbang grenades. They're throwing in frags. Like, these police are a little bit built different.
Dude, these guys, they don't go up and yell, "He's got a gun!" They go, "Get him!" That's it. It's like, these are totally different kind of police here. But we can see the Russians crawling out of the windows and trying to run away from the police, because the Ukrainian police are just that damn bad. I mean, they're pretty fierce.
If you see these Ukrainian police, like in a video, start yelling, "Stop resisting," and throwing in grenades and stuff like that, I'm about to lose it.
Man, I wish. I wish we had a clip like that. But as you can see, just in this one clip, which took over the span of reality, about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, and we can also see that unfortunately one of the police ended up getting wounded back there by a mortar strike. But nevertheless, we can see the Ukrainian police continuing to advance down here into the next building. They cleared an entire building with about a half squad in 10 minutes. So you can kind of get the idea of the speed at which Ukrainian police are able to advance through the city, showing why they were able to make such quick counteroffensive progress as of today, being one of the units that was involved in that. We can then see Vovchansk from a distance. Actually, to show y'all where this drone is looking, you can actually see the grain silo buildings right here. This drone is somewhere all the way down here where the mouse cursor is circling right now, looking up and towards Vovchansk. The Russian forces that were being filmed were most likely in these rows of houses that were somewhere around here just north of the central hospital, as this was a video made at the very beginning of the counteroffensive today, which means that the Russians had not been pushed through the city that much, and they were probably just north of the hospital when that video was made. But still, absolutely incredible work from the Ukrainian police, and I would have to say, welcome to Audit the Audit, where we sort out the who and what of Ukrainian police interaction. That's because this went down as an A+. Ukrainian police showed absolute professionalism in the face of enemy forces, and not only that, routed the army from the field, which shows that these guys certainly get an A. And as for the drone cameraman who was there, he also gets an A for making sure to respect the police officers on the ground and also respect his rights to be able to catch that video on film in a public area. But moving on from
unfortunately, the orcs get an F because they unnecessarily escalated the situation to the point of deadly force.
Better yet, Matthew, the orcs get an F for constantly attempting to hold the city, holding a weak defense, and not only that, having absolutely, and not having Chris's mom. They get an F for all that. Oh. But beyond that, moving on from that into the next clip, we also got to see a big part of the muscle that made this counteroffensive so successful today, which were the Western-provided M777 howitzers that have been providing unbelievable artillery support behind the city of Vovchansk for those counterattacking forces that so heroically retook the quarter of the city that was being held by the Russian Federation today. We can see a small clip of them and their M777 moving through the fields just south of Vovchansk as they prepare themselves for a fire mission. And good lord, look at the recoil on that thing, man. That thing almost came back and took this guy's legs off. Look at this. Dang. Oh my lord. And now we can see that the howitzer dug itself in, and now they're going to start packing up and getting on the move. And we can see the truck coming in. They're about to hook up the piece, and they're on the way again to the next pre-prepared firing spot. And with that, that's the end of that clip, but those were all of the clips that we got today from the northern area of Vovchansk. And at the moment, while we are not hearing about any Ukrainian counterattacks occurring near Hloboke and Lukyantsy, we do understand that the first Ukrainian counteroffensive in this direction in the city of Vovchansk has proven to be wildly, unbelievably successful. Pushing Russian forces out of Vovchansk is not only showing that the Ukrainians now have the ability to engage and win against Russians in a head-to-head fight instead of attempting a maneuver victory like we saw during the Balaklia counteroffensive of 2022 and the Kherson counteroffensive of 2022, which were maneuver victories by the Ukrainian armed forces. They are now able to conduct head-to-head battles against the Russian army and push them back in a considerable amount. City fighting is fought on a different metric compared to that the kind of fighting that is fought around the countryside. Countryside fighting is a lot more of a faster sort of a combat when you actually have an advantage of some sort, which we would assume that the Russians would simply have a numerical advantage. And for that reason, they would be able to advance through the countryside a lot faster. And not only that, Ukrainian forces would also be able to advance through the countryside a lot quicker as well, because there isn't really any well-defensible positions out there in those areas. However, inside of a city, there is an endless amount of contact points and suitable defensive positions that could be held by both sides, making urban fighting one of the most difficult and slowest kinds of fighting out there. And considering that the Ukrainians pushed them back, I would assume 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 city blocks in a single day, that is progress which has never been seen before in this war by either side. It is either showing that the Ukrainian army has apparently just entered a new era and is now the best of the best, or the Russian army is so weak now that the Ukrainian head-on attacks end up being wildly successful because there really is no reserves and there's really no combat power at all present on the front lines in the Russian armed forces. And I would have to believe that it's probably a combination of the two coming to a head and proving these amazing counteroffensive results that we got to see today. And a lot of people have been talking about something that has been going on a little bit further south, and we're going to be asking y'all about that here in just a second. In fact, we've already asked y'all a little bit about it, but moving on from this counteroffensive in oh, wait a minute, I forgot. One more big thing from the counteroffensive in Vovchansk. The Ukrainians were also able to capture an intact T-72B3 today from the front lines, and they drove it through the city of Kharkiv to get it to the rear lines, where they could modify it and upgrade it so that way it would be usable in the Ukrainian armed forces. But here's the clip of that captured T-72B3 racing its way through Kharkiv.
I don't slang up bang, I just smoke, motherfuckers.
All right, we're going to be muting that.
What the hell? I thought that was a Ukrainian saying that. I was like, damn, he's learned some good English all of a sudden to be saying that.
And then I heard Mother Effers, I went, nah. I was like, nah, that's a stereo or something. But with that, that's the end of that clip. Also, by the way, if y'all are wondering, how do we know it's captured? Well, you can clearly see the Z right there that was on the back of this tank, and we can see a Ukrainian flag flying above it, which is the way that Ukrainians normally go about denoting captured vehicles until they're able to wash the Z's off and then paint on crosses. But moving on from that little clip with that T-72B3, once again showing that this area is going so well, not only are they able to push the Russians back, they're leaving equipment behind that the Ukrainians are now capturing and planning on using against the Russian army on in the future. But moving out of this news and on down into the area of the KERCH Strait, oh buddy, we got a lot of news down here, and it is an endless amount of news. But before we even talk about what happened exactly down in the strait, I have to bring y'all to the very beginning of the story, in the middle of the Zaporizhia Oblast in Ukraine, with this video right here. And some of y'all will be like, wow, that looks brilliant. And it is quite brilliant. It's an ATACMS launch. And here's the clip.
Опа! Сейчас поработаем, блядь! Ожидайте нашим.
Oh, no. It's copyright. No! But we have to mute it. But we can see the ATACMS all being launched right here in one large volley by this HIMARS battery.
I guess the Ukrainians got that new stash from the looks of it.
It looks like they did. They were firing an incredibly large amount of them. And what is crazy is that this video is showing the ATACMS missiles that were launched at the KERCH Strait overnight. So, now that we've begun this story, and those ATACMS missiles are now on their way to KERCH, let us move down to KERCH about 30 minutes after that launch occurred, and look at the end result that started to happen downrange. We were able to find out that the railroad ferries on all parts of the KERCH Strait were damaged or completely knocked out. This is huge news, and I'm going to be moving y'all directly into it. Here is our first bit of news that we got today, showing proof that the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine released satellite imagery of what was said to be the aftermath of Ukrainian strikes with ATACMS missiles on the KERCH ferry crossings in the Crimean Peninsula area last night. According to Ukraine, the crossing was actively used by the Russian Federation for military transport in the area of the Crimean Peninsula, which we largely understand to be an accurate statement. We can see right here that this ship, in particular, this railroad ferry, has a gaping hole in the top of its hull, and it appears that an ATACMS missile slammed directly center of the ship, or amidships. And then in the next picture, we got to see another ferry, which is actually not in KERCH. We'll get to that in a minute. That also appears to have suffered some kind of a direct hit from an ATACMS missile, knocking this vessel out as well. We were also able to hear that apparently these vessels are beached where they are right now. One of them, we don't know which one, took on water and is now stuck in the mooring, meaning that the only remaining ferry that is usable at the moment by the Russians, because out of the three, there were 3 ferries that are currently being used by the Russians to transport goods and troops across this area. 2 out of the 3 were knocked out. And you're seeing one in this picture right here and the second one in this one right here. There's a
Also,
third one.
Enforcer, we have actual photos of the damage itself. It's the Avant-Garde ferry, which got hit by the attackums, and the starboard side of the vessel has completely collapsed. We have up-close photos of it on the ground as well, showing how bad it was. That ship was really jacked up bad. If you go to our likes tab, by the way, it's right there. And
Holy
damn, thank
moly!
you, Griffin Provenzano. Good Lord, $500.
Dang!
Jeez.
Goodness gracious. Thank you, Griffin. Oh my God. That is
Damn.
crazy. That is
That
insane.
is crazy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll be getting to that here in a little bit, but that is unbelievable. And also, Matthew, I think we actually, yeah, we do. We actually have that already on the map because I was looking around for some up-close pictures, and here they are. These are the pictures from Avant-Garde, and the coordinates of the Avant-Garde are right here. And I'm going to plug this in to make sure that I have the right vessel in the right location. So let me go ahead and put that down. And yes, this is actually the land. I'm going to skip ahead here really quickly. There are actually 2 ferry crossings in the Kerch Strait. There is one up here, and I forgot the name of this place, but it's one of the larger ferry crossings for the Russian Federation. And that ship already looks like... Wait a minute, is this ship damaged? Like, do you see that, Matthew? It looks like the superstructure is, like, caved inwards right here on this part of the vessel.
It does look damaged, and it says the image here is from Maxar Technology, so it could maybe be a recent one. I'm not sure if Google's updating that recently, though, but it's possible.
But that isn't the ferry, though. So well, wait a minute. Okay, so there's the loading ramp for the ferry that would be coming in. That's weird. Let's look around. Let's see if we can actually see the ferry, because this is actually where the ferry scoots off from. And here's one of them, actually. This may actually be the Avant-Garde right here, if we can line up the superstructure. But getting back to the pictures, this is the damage that was caused to the Avant-Garde overnight. And it is extremely severe. The side of the superstructure appears to have completely bowed outwards from the explosion, meaning that this vessel is completely inoperable at the moment. Not only that, but you can see that the ship has taken on an incredibly strong list, I believe to the port side, about 15 degrees, maybe 10 degrees or so, showing that it has taken on water near to the stern, and it went down at the stern with a 10-degree list to port, and it is now stuck at its moorings in this area. Meaning, and this is the big news, the closest crossing across the Kerch Strait, because here is where the ferry crossing is, and I believe this is the Avant-Garde that we're looking at right here, and just literally right across the strait is the other end of this ferry crossing. It is an incredibly short one. And this one here, the shortest crossing from the strait, is now completely unusable until they refloat this vessel and move it out of the area. And this is the specific one that we're looking at right here. You can see the exact moorings, I believe, that we're looking for. And let me make sure there's like a little dump right there. Yeah, there's the dump. So this is the exact ship stuck in this exact spot right here. This port and this vessel are no longer usable for quite some time for the railroad ferry. And the railroad is the most important thing for the Russian Army's logistics corps. And so going off of that, we know that the Russians are screwed. They're now going to have to be moving all of their freight and cargo down into the area of Kerch, because there is a railroad ferry connection access right here. From what I understand, that's where it is inside of Kerch. But the thing about that, the difficult thing about that is that this one has also been knocked out as well inside the port of Kerch. But we were also able to get the ferry strike locations. You can see both of those right here. You can see the one up in the area. I keep on forgetting what this is called. This little area right here. I don't even think there's a town name for it. It's just the ferry crossing, the northern ferry crossing. And then here's the southern ferry crossing inside of Kerch. They are showing that it's down here. And it is down here because, look, there is one of the railroad ferries right there. So they actually pull into the special little area in the harbor, and then they drop off the trains right here. But moving on from that, let me get y'all to the actual satellite picture that we got from the city of Kerch, which should be right here. And so let me go grab this really quickly and show y'all. Oh, actually, hang on. That's not the one we're looking for. I think it is actually this one. And it showed the satellite picture of the strike. Here it is. This is the railroad crossing in the area of the city of Kerch, and once again, to back that up, you can see the extended wharf right there, which you can see here, and you can also see the fuel tanks here in the background. Although these look to be rusted to hell and back, you can see them, and those are in the picture right back there. This ship has also, from what we understood, taken on water. The superstructure is completely blown out on the side, although we don't have a lot of pictures of it. We've been able to hear that apparently the superstructure was also blown out as well, and it appears that it is also taken on water, and it's pretty much beached at its mooring. Meaning that while they have one usable ferry left, and I believe that the ones that were hit was the Avangard, and this one was another vessel. I think this one was, and let me see about that front superstructure there. This one may have been the Conroe Trader right here. This one appears to have been knocked out at its moorings. This one also appears to have been knocked out at its moorings as well. And this is the only ship right here, the Anekov, that is undamaged at the moment and is still able to run the route. The problem is that there's no way to run the route because currently both access points on the Crimean side of the strait are completely unusable because they're currently being occupied by the two sunken ferries that are sitting here and right up here in the northern area of the Kerch Strait, which is right there. So these are completely unusable. In fact, the entire ferry crossing at the moment is completely unusable. And from what we know, according to Ukrainian intelligence and also U.S. Department of Defense intelligence, these crossings were being used far more by the Russian military at any point in the war than the bridge was. The bridge has pretty much taken on a symbolic state. It's not really used by the military anymore from what we've been able to find out, but the ferry crossings are. And now these have been completely knocked out overnight, meaning that the Russians have absolutely no way at the moment to transport supplies across the strait unless if they want to use the extremely dangerous and risky Kerch Bridge, which may be targeted and hit really soon. But before I ask y'all a big question, I also have to show y'all something from the other side of the strait that is also big and kind of pertains to all of this put together. Matthew, you know, that strike that happened on the Kerch Strait was a fairly big thing, and we got to see that the Russian air defense did attempt to shoot down some of the missiles, and it appears they were completely unsuccessful. But what is even more of an embarrassment is that just hours later, after the ferries were stricken at their moorings and sank in location, we were able to see that Ukrainian drones flew over the strait, over the bridge, to the Taman oil depot right down here, and ended up knocking it out as well. And we were able to get that on film too. And so, let me show y'all this clip. Here it is. I'm going to put it up on full screen, and here we go.
Вот, вон, кукурузник летит. Сука, над нами прям. Блядь.
Oh man, this rifle fire, that's all they've got.
It's all that's left. And there goes the Ukrainian drone. And you see the silos of Taman in the background as it goes on its final dive, almost off camera, and then dead on hit.
Да. Ёб твою
I'm just
мать.
saying real quick, not trying to brag, but I got to take my credit a little bit here. I said before that the Ukrainians might have moved on from trying to attack the Kerch Bridge, and I'd also made the point as well that I'm really not sure if there's any air defense remaining in that area. And based on the looks of it, it looks like I might have been correct because all I'm hearing is rifle fire, and that's it. So I had a feeling that maybe the Russians had moved the air defense out of that area to use in other more important regions because they've stopped using the bridge for logistics. So that could be the case based on the video evidence here.
And if they hit that bridge, it's over for the Russians in this area. But we can see the aftermath here as the workers watch on as the smoke begins to rise in the air from the strike.
Ты видал, нахуй? Я хуею, ебать.
Какая ПВОшка не сработала.
Только
что пизданулся за резервуаром.
Сука.
We hear all the workers in shock about this.
Мимо уебал.
Промазал.
Да.
Ну, не резик, да, зарезик.
За резиком упал, да.
Мы лежим.
And that clip ends. But it ends with proof that Ukrainian drones and Ukrainian missiles, ATACMS missiles, can pretty much strike on either end of the bridge at this point and face almost no resistance at all from Russian air defense. It is incredibly big news. And a lot of people have been talking about Ukraine striking the Kerch ferry crossing in Crimea, and a lot of people are wondering, is this showing that the Ukrainians have moved on completely from the Kerch bridge? And it's not just about the ferry crossings, it's also about the strike on the Taman depot, because that's also showing that they completely bypassed targeting or hitting the bridge and hit everything on all sides of the bridge, literally just miles away from the bridge in all directions, but didn't hit the bridge. And it's begging the question, are the Ukrainians still planning on eventually knocking out the bridge? Or are they just going to let it sit there and the Russians just be in an endless amount of fear about this bridge getting knocked out or destroyed by Ukrainian fire in the future? And Matthew, what are people saying right now about this, and what are you thinking about it?
All right, so on this question, has Ukraine moved on from the Kerch Bridge? It's actually pretty evenly split with the audience. It looks like 43% said no, Ukraine is simply waiting for the right moment, and 40% said yes, they've moved on because Ukraine is now hitting other priority targets. And based on the looks of it, I would say that for now, Ukraine has moved on from hitting the Kerch Bridge. There are obviously, in my opinion, much better priority targets to hit. For example, the ferry crossing that Ukraine hit today, that was probably much more important in a more realistic sense than actually hitting a propaganda target, which at this point, the Kerch Bridge is basically a propaganda target because the Russians have stopped using it for logistics in a big way. But the catch is, though, what Ukraine could be doing here is they're first going to knock out the ferry crossing and the alternative means that the Russians have begun using as the alternative to the Kerch Bridge. And then when the Russians have to start using the Kerch again, that might be when they decide to strike it. So there's a possibility that with the large amount of ATACMS missiles being given to Ukraine, the surplus basically, that Ukraine could hit it later down the road. So I'm kind of with the 43%. I think Ukraine is waiting for the right moment. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say, I think the Ukrainians are waiting for the right moment, because right now the bridge is entirely a symbolic thing. It connects Russia to Crimea. It's an extension of Russia trying to legitimize their claim on the peninsula, but for now it doesn't really serve a major military logistics route. But that's going to change, because with the ferry crossings knocked out, it will probably take a while for them to refloat those two ferries. It may take them weeks, or it may take them months, and they still have to move a massive amount of supplies across this strait one way or another. And the only way left right now is this bridge. And I have a feeling that they are going to be moving all of their logistics forces by rail and by road onto this bridge, and just praying to God that the Ukrainians don't end up hitting it and knocking it out here soon. To be quite honest, thinking about this logically, I would give y'all, I'm not going to hype y'all up too much on this, but I would give y'all a good reason to have an expectation that this bridge will be stricken in the next few weeks. Because right now, if they struck that, Russian logistics will be dead in the water in Crimea in a few months, because the bridge will be knocked out for months on end if it gets hit again. We saw that back in the past, especially if the railroad span is hit. And then with the ferry crossings knocked out as well, they have pretty much done all of the groundwork they need to make sure that the Russian army is starved of supplies in Kherson and in Crimea. So going off of that, I think that they have moved on from the bridge for now, but they are going to turn back around and revisit that bridge really soon, because there is really no point not to. There is no air defense that is successful in this area anymore in intercepting ATACMS. There is no air defense that even can intercept drones going for the Taman oil depot. All of that put together, the bridge could easily be hit and knocked out. And considering that the Russians are going to start moving their supply lines temporarily back onto the bridge as a substitute for the ferry crossings until those are eventually operational again, or never operational, considering that they only have one vessel on the route instead of three, which means that the amount of train transport that can be conducted across the strait is incredibly small now. I would expect that this bridge will be targeted and destroyed here in the very near future, probably within weeks, maybe even within a month. But
it certainly seems like Ukraine's forcing them back onto the bridge after they just got off of it. It could have been that the Ukrainians were so disappointed. They're like, damn, Russia stopped using the bridge for logistics. They might have been thinking, we really can't justify that as a real like priority military target at this point, since it's no longer being used for logistics. So Ukraine's answer to basically justify that attack to the west is to force the Russians back onto the bridge and then hit it, and then the West won't gripe about it. Maybe that's one reason they're waiting for that to happen, because, you know, the Russians have to see this coming. I know the Russians are pretty stupid when it comes to military logistics and also strategy, but there's even a blind person could see what Ukraine's trying to do here. If they force them back onto the Kerch Bridge, that thing is definitely getting hit then, like no doubt about it. Ukraine is going to destroy the bridge, and they're going to have the missiles to actually get it done this time as well, because they've been arriving in mass. So that could be a tremendous day. That could be a very big moment.
It's going to be a huge moment. And also, I see a lot of people saying, no, they're not going to hit the bridge because it's a civilian evacuation corridor, and it's also an evacuation corridor for the army. I'm going to have to disagree. And the reason why is because there are actual civilian, or more so passenger ferries. You can actually see two of them right here moored side by side. And then moving on up into the northern landing, we can also see a couple of ferries up here side by side as well. These ferries would most likely be what Ukraine leaves for the Russians to retreat and for civilians to leave outside of Crimea. The bridge is a major target because what the Ukrainians are attempting to target and destroy, it's not the road access. access. The road access means nothing to Ukraine, and it really means nothing to Russia too. It's the railroad access, and the only other way right now that Russian trains will be able to cross this strait is through this railroad bridge right here, connected to the Crimean Bridge superstructure as a whole. Going off of that, this is clearly going to be a target here soon, because it's the last railroad access they have into Crimea. If that is wiped out, it is over. I mean, it truly is over for Russia in Crimea. The Navy, the Black Sea Fleet that is left there will not be getting any supplies in any large numbers, because the land corridor is going to be completely overrun with supply requests. So the amount of supplies that will make it to anyone in Kherson and Dnipro, well, not Kherson and Dnipro, but Kherson and Crimea are going to be slim to none per unit. Not only that, the Russian Air Force operating in Crimea is practically cut off from any kind of fuel access or ammunition access or spare part access in the future as well. And then the Russian army that's way out here in Kherson, which is really relying on this connection to be its shortest supply link to Russia, will also be dealing with reduced supply efficiency over these next few weeks and months, meaning overall this entire area, if the Kerch railroad bridge is knocked out, could be completely screwed. And the Russians do not have the extra kind of supply trucks needed to be able to completely subsidize the operations of this rail transport corridor with trucks. They just do not have the ability to do that. So if this is knocked out, along with those ferry crossings, which are now completely done, the nails have been put in the coffin for those ferry crossings. If the railroad bridge is also knocked out as well, it's over. It's over for the Russians in Crimea. I will truly say that. Things will be horrendous in there, and it will be all the better for Ukraine if that is the case. But moving on from that bit of news, and on out of the area of the Kerch Strait, not only is the Russian Federation done in the Kerch Strait, they're done on the west coast of Crimea as well, near Sevastopol. We were able to see that the Ukrainians were able to get some of their kamikaze boats through a gamut of Russian rocket fire from helicopters patrolling the outskirts of the harbor area, and were able to destroy 2 Coast Guard patrol vessels today of the Russian Coast Guard. Here is the clip. We can see the kamikaze boat traveling through the water. It's about to be pelted by rocket fire right there. And in a second, you'll actually see the Mi-35 flying right over. There it is. It's firing at the kamikaze boat, missed by inches. And then it just fails. It fails to intercept this thing. The drone just watches the helicopter flying around. And in a second, we'll see an Mi-8 making sure to keep an eye on it. And that's right there. And the Mi-8 is helpless. It probably has a door-mounted machine gun on it, but that's not really going to be doing much, and it didn't do anything to it. And we now see that the drones have made it to the harbor perimeter. Oh, buddy, things are going to get bad, and they get incredibly bad. We can see some kind of an explosion that happened. We don't really know from what. We believe that it may have been one of the first Coast Guard vessels to be hit. And now, there they are. There are the 2 Russian Coast Guard patrol vessels. And it looks like this drone's going right for this one. And it is. And you can then see the...
Bliad, no, Bliad, oh, no.
And then you can see the explosion from the second drone right here. It was a critical detonation of the ammunition magazines within the Coast Guard vessel, leading to a catastrophic explosion which literally leveled the ship down to the waterline. Really leveled the boat down to the waterline. It's not really a ship, it's more of a boat. But beyond that...
That was so polite for that second drone boat to wait its turn like that. It just sat back there politely waiting while the first one did what it had to do.
It's just like, yippee! It's just like, hey, that's great. I love it. I love to see this. And also, moving on from that, I don't know if y'all have heard this little bit of news today, but this was kind of a nice bit of news. The Russian tank storage lots are empty. Like, they're empty. Like,
Shocking.
Like, I'm not even kidding. This is actually shocking. This is a satellite picture that came out of the 7,027th base at Pospolicha. And this used to be filled. These little white stripes here were literally rows and rows and rows of old main battle tanks from Soviet times that had been put into storage and had not been used until the war in Ukraine. This was one of the larger tank supply yards in the Russian Federation, and it is completely empty. Every single lot of it is empty. The only thing left here is a a surveillance radar station from the 590th Anti-Air Missile Regiment, but beyond that, there is nothing that remains in the supply yard. It is literally completely empty. It has been depleted to the bone, and there are no more Russian tanks left to pull from this supply yard and to put into the war, whether they be almost completely operational or requiring a large amount of upgrades and refits. Every single one of them has been pulled for military service, and it's showing that the Russian Federation, much like we've been saying for a while now, there is very clear evidence and proof here to show that this supply yard, much like the rest of the Russian Federation, is on its dying last breaths to try and keep this war running. And also, Jumpy, who put this up on Twitter, was also able to show us the mostly depleted yard in late 2022. And this is what it actually looks like in late 2022. You can actually see a large amount of the vehicles out there in the lots, and also giving you an idea of the scale. And then you can see it's a little bit further more depleted here. Then you can see the other lot right here, once again filled with APCs and main battle tanks. And then you can see later on in the year, I believe this was in the mid part of 2023, it was mostly depleted. But now in this most recent picture, there is literally not a single thing left. Like, and look at the quality of the vehicles that were here. Some of these had actually rusted over completely, and the Russians are so desperate for equipment, they even pulled those out and refitted them for use in the war. That's how desperate they are for vehicles. They can't go around anymore like they did at the beginning of the war and cherry pick the supply yards for the best examples that they had, the best running order and running condition BTRs, BMPs, T-72s and T-80s, and T-62s and T-65s that they had. They don't even have the ability to do that anymore. They are going around and picking the literal bottom of the barrel vehicles in quality now, and having to refit them and go through the costs of doing that to try and just keep something on the front lines. And this is giving us an idea that we are correct with the timetable, that the Russian Federation will most likely have to end this war by the later end of this year or the very beginning of next year, due to a complete lack of vehicles, a complete lack of fuel, and also because the Russian government will most likely be completely out of funds by that point. But moving on from that news, there was even more big stuff that happened in Moscow. We were able to see that the Toros factory, the former Toros machine building plant, was on fire, and it burned considerably. 4,000 square meters burned to the ground. Here's the clip. When you see the fire from a distance right here, and we see it continuing to burn quite marvelously, actually. And we believe that this was sabotage.
Didn't we see this the other day?
We saw this way late at night, but I'm making sure to recap it because we got some additional footage of some Russian rescue helicopters dropping barrels of water onto the fire here in a second. And let me see if we have that. Here we go. We see the fire from a distance in Moscow. And we can also see the Ka-35s that are trying to drop water on the fire. We can see that.
It's just like Chernobyl. You know, when they flew over the smoke, though, they kind of went down.
We need boron. That's what they're saying right now, Matthew.
Send the next one in.
Dude, and that thing is acting as a huge counterweight on the bottom of that Ka-35, because look how hard it was actually trying to keep on path. It was almost at a 45-degree angle to the right to stop that thing from flinging it into the smoke.
It's 5,000 Rottingen.
It's not 3 Ronken, it's 3,000.
Send the next one in.
You can't do that to them, they'll die. I don't care what you say, I'm the Interior Minister, send them in. Or something like that. But this fire was getting out of hand.
Boris.
And here comes another.
They're running a lot of water.
Yeah, they were bringing in loads. Ooh, that one flew right in the smoke. The engines on that one will be needing a decent amount of inspection after this flight. But that is the end of those clips. But that is wonderful. Oh, there's a little bit more. But that's the
next one in.
That's it. But you know, Matthew,
I love that phrase. I'm telling you.
Speaking about sending the next one in, I hate to say this for everyone, because today a massive embarrassment happened to this country. It was absolutely horrendous. It was terrible, and I wish it had never happened. Everyone's been talking about it. Everyone saw it, and we've been trying not to cover this as much as possible. But sadly, even with everything that's going on, we have to cover it. I mean, we have to talk about it. And so I'm going to be bringing you all into Moscow because Steven Seagal actually got awarded with a medal today, and he made a speech on his smartphone that was one of the stupidest sounding speeches I had ever heard. And also, he mispronounced a whole load of words. This man is truly a sage in knowledge. But I'm just going to play the clip. Y'all just take it for what it is. Here's the clip.
Ukraine was known for human trafficking, organ trafficking, narco trafficking, child sex trafficking, biochemical warfare labs, fascism, and Nazism. And these are the things that we still tried to make them our brothers. And these are all poisons that can affect the entire world, not just us. Many people say we are facing an existential threat by all these conditions. But actually, the whole world is at risk of becoming dangerously close to entering into World War III. We are facing the same monster trying to devour, conquer, and control the world through lies, disinformation, and manipulation.
Oh, the lies, the
Oh,
lies.
the
You know what he
lies.
sounds like? He sounds like he's reading off like the entire text message that he received from, like he probably has under contact in his phone, Big Daddy Putin in there, and he sent him a text and said, "Read this off, you'll be fine." And this guy tried to pronounce the words, and he didn't even know what he was saying.
Oh my god, dude! He said instead of saying Nazism, he said Nazism. It's like that's not even how you say the word. It's like how the hell can you screw that up? Like it's literally like this. By the way, this idiot lives in Russia now. Like he says he's a Russian. And also what's stupid, I don't know if any of y'all noticed this, he's wearing a kimono, which is from Japan, but he swears up and down he's a Russian fooling through. It's like, are you Japanese or are you a Russian? Like can you pick one or the other? You know, like just do one, pick one. But also, did anyone else notice the subtitles cover this up a good bit? But when the subtitles are gone, he's literally reading this off of his phone.
He really is. He also, why does he sound like the cult leader? Oh, the lies they'll tell about me now.
Oh my god. I can't stand this. I want to call
If
my
you sign up
eyes
for his bullshito course for $19.99 a month, you might be able to join him too.
Dude, and also, dude, like, I want to go back to this phrase. Like, let me just go back to this part right here.
Biochemical warfare labs, fascism, and Nazism. And these are the things that we still tried to make them our brothers.
Like, what the hell does that mean? Like, what did that last sentence right there mean? And these are the things that we still try to make them our brothers. Godzilla had a stroke reading that and died. What the hell does that even mean? Like, that isn't even a grammatically correct sentence. I don't even know what that's supposed to mean. Like, do you, Matthew? Does that make any sense to you?
I have no idea, man. I'm as lost as he is trying to read it. Like, he doesn't even know what he's reading. I don't even know what he's saying.
Dude, he said our brothers at the end like it was a great surprise. Listen.
These are the things that we still tried to make them our brothers.
Also, a huge credit to Steven Seagal for being such a martial artist that he's out of breath just reading a speech. Gotta say, this man has got to be whooping some ass because actually he's whooping some Boston butts. That's really all he is because this guy is so freaking fat. It's unbelievable. And also, can someone tell him that his goatee does not look good? Like, I just want to put that out there. Goatees are not bad as a thing, but a goatee on Steven Seagal looks horrendous. Like, I don't even know what that's supposed to be.
He went to the barber, and instead of saying, "Hey, break out the clippers," he said, "You got the Sharpie? Get to work." Man, that hairline looks like it's been drawn on by a Sharpie.
Dude, he said, I want to look at the bottom of my face like a predator, and then at the top I want to look like Count Dracula. And they said, "Get you, Cameron." And they gave him this fit. Like, oh my goodness.
But even at this, with the drawn-on hairline, this is still better than that gouge that's in Hot Dog Man's hair.
Oh, shots fired.
Oh.
Oh my goodness. But oh my gosh, dude, I cannot stand this. And what's even worse, there's Putin. He's right there. He's standing.
Oh, that's why he's acting like he's being held at gunpoint, because he's literally standing right in front of him and said, "Read it."
Yeah, I mean, oh my god, I can't believe this guy's being treated this seriously in Russia. This guy is a joke. He's not even a something list actor. Like, when he left America, no one wanted him around. The guy's known as insufferable. He's a pathological liar. And it's insane to think that this guy gets that much pressed in Russia, and this is what they want to be associated with, is this loser. Like, and also, like, did he get a spray tan or something? Because this color on his face doesn't even look natural. Like, it doesn't. But anyways, that's enough of that. That's enough of that. This guy is just sad, pitiful, and it was pitiful to even see that this happened today in Moscow. It was an embarrassment to the country. But moving on from that, we also got to hear that according to the Russians, as a statement through TASS made by the Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman, that France is preparing to send troops into Ukraine, and that has been confirmed. That will be happening in a few days. So, very big news. And it does seem like everyone's agreeing the French are going in, and who knows what that will result in. But beyond that, there is even bigger news that we have to cover. Huge news. Massive news. The United States of America today came out with a statement that they will be allowing Ukraine to use Patriot surface-to-air missile systems inside of Russian airspace, and they will also permit the interception of Russian Air Force aircraft inside of Russian airspace using F-16 Fighting Falcons. That is absolutely incredible news and is moving one step closer to allowing all U.S. weapons to be used inside of Russian Federation territory and on Russian soil. So we are going to be seeing what this results in the future. It sounds like promising info, promising news. But a lot of people have had a lot of comments to make on this, and a lot of people think that that's just simply not enough. Some people are thinking that it needs to go even further. There needs to be more. There needs to be more allowance of more systems and more weapons to strike the territory. And Matthew, what are people thinking about that? What are people thinking about this allowance, the limited allowance of U.S. weapons to be used over Russian airspace? What are people thinking about that, and what are you thinking about that?
All right, and I'm just want to make clear here, by the way, Enforcer, the news you just reported on suggests that Ukraine is allowed to hit inside of anywhere in Russia with U.S. weapons. Is that the case? Because all my sources, including up to an hour recently, say that the U.S. is only giving permission to strike Kharkiv targets of the Russians and also into Belgrade alone. So am I incorrect, or do you have different information?
I was told that the Patriot systems could be fired across the border of Ukraine anywhere into the Russian Federation, and also F-16s could intercept Russian aircraft anywhere within Russian airspace. That's the news that I heard, but that may be a more general overview than what you got, because it sounds like you and me may have different information on that.
Okay, so at the moment, we'll have to see which one turns out to be true, because I'm seeing from PBS here, it says that U.S. guidance that Ukraine can hit Russian military targets in the Belgrade region goes into effect today. But it specifically says only Belgrade, so I'm not really sure. But the poll question said the U.S. has given Ukraine permission to strike only Kharkiv and Belgrade targets with U.S. weapons, and if that is the case, then what are your thoughts? 65% said that's too weak, they should expand the targets, 24% said it's a move in the right direction, and 5% said that's appropriate and fair for Ukraine. And if this is the case, that's only Kharkiv and Belgrade targets, I would say that's a move in the right direction, but of course, I'm in favor of the U.S. opening the playing field all the way and letting Ukraine use it anywhere in Russian territory. And if it is the case they've already allowed that, then I think that's the right move, but right now, I'm not exactly sure if that is the case. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that I would like to know that all U.S. weapons could be used on Russian soil. I would say not really expand the targets, but expand the weapons that are allowed to be used inside of Russian soil, from what I would understand at the moment. But it sounds like Matthew and me did get two different kinds of information on that. So we'll have to check after the stream to see which one is correct or not. But nevertheless, I would say that the amount of weapons that could be used inside of Russia or on Russian soil should be expanded to include all U.S. weapons that we have provided Ukraine with so far. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, in my opinion. And with that, it's time for us to start moving on into some questions. And Matthew, what kind of questions do we have?
All right, so let's hop into our first super chat of the night. It is a massive $500 donation from Griffin Provenzano, and that is the max super chat you can throw in on the channel. And a huge shout out to Griffin for that extremely generous support. He says, I'm early this week, but because of such big news, I've decided that this deserves donation. An LSA.
An LSA, baby! And I gotta thank you for the unbelievable support, Griffin Provenzano. That is the cap of a super chat that you can send in. That is the biggest super chat that YouTube will allow. And I gotta thank you for the unbelievable support. absolutely incredible. And I thank you so much for supporting this channel massively like that and helping this channel to keep on running. And I gotta say, we are completely undeserving of that kind of support. That is unbelievable. I can't even thank you enough for that. It is insane. It helps us keep this thing running a lot. Not only that, it helps us to thrive in the background, really, more so than just help this thing to keep running. And I got to thank you for that unbelievably massive support, because very rarely does support like that come through. And of course, the amount of support isn't what really matters. It just matters that people want to support. But still, in the end, we do have bills to pay, things that we're doing in the background, and support like that unbelievably massive support helps us to keep this thing going. And so with that, thank you so much once again for that incredible support, helping this thing to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to even be here right now to cover this incredible news and keep this thing running. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that the best I can. And thank you, Griffin Provenzano, for being an absolute legend of the Lee Spring Army and helping this channel to continue running so the flags of the Lee Spring Army can fly high and the t-shirts can be worn across the world. And that brings us on into something that we've gotta talk about. If you go to officialenforcerstore.com, and let me go to that, officialenforcerstore.com, we have a limited edition sale right now of our Lee Spring Army t-shirts and our combat patches. They're called morale patches technically, but I call them combat patches. But aren't they beautiful? They are truly the greatest, truly the best. And I gotta say, these shirts are absolutely amazing. They come in multiple colors: black, military green, charcoal, navy, probably the best looking, light blue, and light pink. They also come in all kinds of sizes as well. And not only that, they are made of 100% American cotton. You can't find this cotton anywhere else but here in the good old US of A. And not only that, it's Gildan unisex crew neck t-shirts with a nice comfortable fit that will satisfy anyone. And it's such a classy design, you can wear this thing out in public. People ask you, what is this? And you get to tell them, it's the Lee Spring Army. You ought to join it someday. Go subscribe to the Enforcers channel. And that is absolutely something incredible. And not only that, you get 10% of all the profits off of these merchandise sales are donated to United 24 in a donation to help out with demining efforts and other kind of efforts that United 24 conducts. Not only that, but the combat patches are $10 a piece. Sadly, they're only available to US viewers at the moment. We are still trying to figure out a way to make this possible for international viewers. Matthew's working on that in the background, but we don't really want to say anything about that right now unless if it can actually happen. So we're going to hold off on telling you all about that until we can doubly make sure. But you can buy an unlimited number of these if you're a US customer. These things are absolutely incredible. They look sleek, and we've got a couple of them here in the house right now, and they are amazing. They're 4-inch by 2.5-inch, $10 a pop, and you can get an unlimited number of these things. Not only do they support the channel, but just like the t-shirts, 10% of all the profits from these combat patches will be donated to United 24 to help out with the war effort going on inside of Ukraine. And so make sure to get some while you can. For now, this limited edition run will be going only till Saturday, although the demand to make this limited edition run extend to last a bit longer is starting to get larger, and so we may actually push back the sale to be to end a little bit later than sooner, and so that may be the case, but we'll have to kind of like hear that out, because we'll probably make a decision on that tomorrow if we extend it. So make sure to get some while you can, and also make sure to show your pride in the Lee Spring Army, because these are beautiful shirts, beautiful patches, and we would love to see those out there. They're incredible. And so with that, if you want to find where these are, go to officialenforcerstore.com. You can actually see it up here at the top of the screen, or you can click on the link in the description below the stream where it says get your LSA t-shirt and patch here. Click on that link, and that will take you directly onto the website where you can get your shirts and your patches. So with that, I hope that does address that well, and a huge shout out once again to you, Griffin Provenzano, for helping this channel to keep on running, and I hope that you look fly in your LSA finest. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that addressed that the best I can. And I hope we were able to get that merciless plug out as well, because it was merciless.
Merciless, I'm telling you.
Also, by the way, I just want to put this out there because I thought this was kind of cool, and maybe y'all would too. I don't know. But we were actually number 62 in the world yesterday for top live stream.
Oh wow, dude, that's pretty sick. I got to tell you.
But you know who we were really close to, Matthew?
Who?
Yoo-hoo! Tucky G! He was like right there,
Oh,
dude. We were literally within
Tucky
like
G.
yeah, Tucky G was live on YouTube last night, and we were only about 500 or so live viewers away from having Tucky G's audience. So that's kind of a little
Man.
interesting, isn't it?
Tucky G. But Tucky G spent his whole life trying to be a journalist. I mean, how are we just a few steps behind him like that?
I have no idea. Absolutely crazy. And also, you know someone else we beat? Fox News. Like we beat Fox News by a pretty
His
look,
former employer. Look
yeah,
at that.
and then let's see who else did we end up beating? Let's see. I'm trying to see anyone. Washington Post. Let's see here.
Not hard to beat them.
Let's see.
Let's see.
Let's see here. Hi guys.
I saw someone else
Enforcer
we
here.
beat, but
Law and Crime Network. Who beat us though? Let's see who beat us. PBS beat us. That's interesting. Ludwig beat us. Redacted beat us. Oh, these I can see why. Coco Melon.
Disney Junior be killing it every day.
The Young Turks beat us. I see. You know, I'm noticing a trend though. Why these specific groups are beating us when they usually don't on most days. If you're looking at the thumbnails, Matthew, I'm kind of seeing why. But anyways, let's see here. Who else? Agenda Free TV. Oh, that's why. Dude, everyone who beat us was covering the thing we will never cover. But let's see here. And then we got Live Now from Fox. They beat us. But actual Fox News did not beat us. And then let's see. Who else? Darman.
Oh, there's that Ripple thing again. You remember that? The Ripple?
Oh, dude! No
That's
way!
that
They
thing that
actually
took over that guy's channel before.
Yeah, dude, they actually did. Thank you. Thanks. Facts and Logic. Thanks. And then Tesla was only number 20. But let's see.
Oh, we got beat by Facts and Logic today. I can't believe it.
And then we got the SpaceX ripoffs, and then ABC. Dude, people were beating us out today because they were covering a certain kind of news that we will never cover on this channel by channel rule. But PlayStation beat us?
PlayStation got 300 and something thousand peak concurrent view. What were they doing? Releasing a new game or something?
I think it was a games show or something like that because IGN was also number 2. So I have a feeling that last night was a big gaming night for folks. But still, that is crazy to have been number 62 in the world. In the top 100. That's wild. And I don't mean to point that out every single day, but I started to notice that after someone pointed it out to me that we're constantly in the top 100, and I was like, there's no way, and we actually are, and I was like, that's crazy. So, thank you everyone once again for watching. It's crazy that there's so many of y'all who watch this that we're always in the top 100, and I don't even know why. Like, I say that every single night now that we bring this up. I have no idea why we're in the top 100, but I'm still greatly appreciative that all of y'all watch. And thank you so much once again for all of y'all just being here. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next question.
And our next question is a one from Kimberly Brokaw, a very long-time viewer. Thank you very much, Kimberly, for that $100 support. Also, massive as well. Huge shout out to Kimberly for that. She said, take one from the chat.
And we will take one from the chat. And I got to thank you so much, Kimberly Brokaw, for I think being our first super chat of the night, if I'm remembering right. I think you were the first super chat of the night. And I got to thank you for that massive support, Kimberly Brokaw, and helping this channel to keep on running. Because it is folks like you who help to make this thing possible, help us to keep this thing running. And if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to even take a live chat right now. And so we are going to make sure to move right into it. And so what is the live chat, Matthew? Sponsored by Kimberly Brokaw.
All right. And the live chat question here goes to Mad Jack F. He says, didn't the Ukrainians have a drone boat with surface-to-air missiles / manpads?
Yes, they did. They actually did have a drone that had an R-73 air-to-air missile mounted on top of it. I don't know how in the world that thing is supposed to work, and I've never seen one used before properly on film. So they do have it. It's just that I don't know how in the world that thing actually works or anything else about it. I just know that they have one. And so with that, I hope that does address that live chat the best I can. And thank you so much, Kimberly Brokaw, once again for sponsoring that live chat and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're moving on into the final question of the segment, and then we're going to be moving on into our location unknowns, the rest of the frontline news, and also any additional news that we have from inside of Ukraine.
All right, and the last one here goes to Char G, who puts in a $20 donation. Huge shout out to Char G for always supporting the channel as well, and at $20 support. He said
Hey!
2 protein-style combos with extra lettuce and tomato and pickles. Fries medium well, light salt for the boys. And your mom will approve of this healthy combo. Yum, yum, get some. Thank you very much, Chargy, for the donation of the In-N-Out Burger, the precious burger, the almighty burger. Sadly, I'm tempted with the burger. I cannot get my hands on the burger. It's way far away from Alabama. I hate that. If I could get the thing driven from Texas over here, I would do it because I want that In-N-Out Burger so bad. But Chargy has been funding the In-N-Out Burger Fund for weeks now. A huge shout out to Chargy for that. And one day when we get close to one of those places, we're going to go hog wild in there. But Enforcer, what say you?
Man, all this effort I'm putting into losing weight, it's all going to go to waste when we finally get to an In-N-Out, because we're going to be like, we got like a $9 million tab from Shargy that we have to eat at this In-N-Out, and we only have this day to do it. Dude, we're going to be on like my 600-pound life after that day. Like, I'm going to be entirely honest, it's going to be
gain
nasty.
any weight, so I'll be on my 175-pound life like for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
hopefully.
Matthew's got this thing, y'all, where if he eats more, he actually loses weight. I don't know how it works. To be honest, I'm kind of jealous of it, but that's how Matthew's life is. Like, he eats more food and loses pounds. Like, it's magic.
Great.
I don't know. It's incredible for him, not great for me. Because I'm not like that. Like, I could eat like pretty normal amount of food, then eat something a little extra, boom, extra pound right there. My metabolism is not Matthew's metabolism. But beyond that, I thank you so much for the support, Shargy, and supporting that In-N-Out Burger Fund, because that sounds delicious. I'm not gonna lie, I'm starting to get a craving these days for a burger, because I've been eating pretty healthy lately. You can ask Matthew. It's been like nothing but vegetables, nothing but like salmon, chicken, stuff like that. But for some reason, the craving for a hamburger, it's coming back around. And there's this amazing burger joint that's local to Birmingham, Alabama, called Hamburger Heaven, and their hamburgers are truly the best. I think they're the best hamburger chain out there. I will swear by them. They're really good. But with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you so much once again for support, Shargy, and helping this channel to keep on running. And I hope I was able to address that Burger Fund support incredibly well. And so with that, it is now time for us to move on back into the Ukraine war news. Moving on into our location unknowns, where we got to see that some Russians ended up having a bad day. A really bad day. Now, I will put this up front. These are all stuntmen that are in this video, and everything that y'all are going to see is just, it's all stunt work. I want to make that clear up front, because, you know, when the YouTube folks come through, they're going to be like, what is this? And it's all stunt work. It's just a interpretive movie style adaptation of the war in Ukraine. And so, you know what? On second thought, we will save that video, and y'all can go look at it in the link in the description below, and go check it out. It is stuntmen after all, but I don't know. I don't want to chance it with YouTube. But moving on from that, we also got to see some Polish BMPs. Check them out. Aren't they cool? They were provided to Ukraine a while ago. And also, is that guy wearing a blue helmet? No, he's not. Is that guy? No, he's wearing a normal PSGT helmet. But that is a really cool looking little Polish BMP-1. Nice to know the Poles were able to provide such a large number of these things. And it's great to see the Ukrainians are getting familiar with them. It's a fairly common platform in Eastern Europe. But with that, we're going to be moving on into our next clip, where we got to see a BTR-82 that has been converted into a turtle. This is the first time we've ever seen this on a BTR-82.
Видите, шайтан, машина какая. Снарядили, штурмовая машина-то, чтоб мины взрывались. Чтобы все пивишки не били. Штурмовой БТР. Но на него тоже нужен рэп. Рэп отсутствует. Только что с водителем разговаривала, просил.
And that's the end of the clip. But we never seen something like this before. It's just like, you ain't from Kharkiv if you've ever done this before. But anyways, moving on from that into our next clip, we also got to see a couple of mock-up vehicles that the Ukrainians have been making to distract Russian artillery and drone attacks. We got to see their mock-up of a HIMARS, a mock-up of a Humvee back. Oh, actually, I think that's a real Humvee. I actually cannot tell on that one. Let me know what y'all think. Is that a real Humvee or a fake Humvee? A fake M777. And then also a fake BMP-2 and an M777. All of these are being built as mock-ups, as dummies, so that way they can put these on the front line, and they'll draw fire away from the real Ukrainian forces that are nearby. Pretty cool to see this kind of stuff in actual pictures of it. But moving on from that, it's now time for us to get to the Russian casualty report because, ooh-wee, it was high.
Oh my goodness. 11 Bobcats. Now, if we hadn't come off the 20 Bobcat day yesterday, I'd be like, oh my God. But the 20 Bobcats, that was insane yesterday. I'm still trying to process that. I'm still recuperating from it. But 11 Bobcats, that's just tremendous.
Aw, man, I'm telling you what, it's just not the same after you have a massive load of it. It's like getting an overdose.
Oh, man. Now, one thing about this is it's totally intentional. Damn.
Aw, man, I have to take mental health days until there's something that I want to talk about, and then I can run a show for some reason. Aw, man. But beyond that...
Stop moaning.
Aw, man. Ew, yuck.
Oh my God.
God. God dang.
That's Twitter bullshit.
Yeah, being Twitter. Oh, man. You know what, Matthew? One day I'm going to unblock him, and I'm going to send him that clip just to remind him. And that would get the bee's nest all started. You know what? I'll save that for when he starts up again, because y'all all know another hit piece is being cooked right now. So we'll wait for that to happen, and then when it happens, then I'll unblock him and I'll send him that video. Some of y'all might know what we're talking about. Some of y'all might not know what we're talking about. I know Miss Disa knows what we're talking about, but anyways, moving on from that, 1,160 Russian soldiers were wounded and killed over the past 24 hours, along with 22 armored personnel carriers, 53 supply trucks, 10 main battle tanks, 35 artillery pieces, 22 drones, 1 MLRS, and 11 Bobcat skid steers. Hi guys, Enforcer here. Top story, massive Russian losses. That's a good day. And I gotta say, is it a beautiful day? I mean, that is absolutely incredible. We love to see it, and it's amazing to know that they were able to inflict such high losses like that onto the Russian armed forces. And moving on from that, it's now time for us to start moving down the rest of the front lines outside of Vovchansk, where these losses were inflicted. Moving on into the area of Kislivka, we were able to see that a Russian tank in this area got blown up. And it was a T-80 BVM of all. And it's one of the more advanced main battle tanks that the Russians have. There's the drone hitting dead on. And oh man, the fires are burning. We didn't start the fire. It was always burning since the war's been turning. But anyways, so you see the T-80 BVM cooking. Oh, dang, that thing had a critical ammunition explosion. Oh my goodness. And my lord, that thing is roasting up. And so with that, it is now time for us to move on from that little bit of a clip and on into our next one, where we got to see that a Russian Strela attempted to shoot down a Ukrainian recon drone, and it failed, and it ended up paying dearly. There's the Strela firing. There goes the missile. It completely missed. It wasn't even close. And now that Strela's like, oh, bliet. Now you see the engine spooling up down there or something along those lines, and here comes the FPV drone to immediately give the Russians the consequences of their actions. Best way to put it. Right there, dead on the nail, and the ammunition immediately explodes, sending that Strela sky high.
Tremendous.
Man, makes me feel...
Somebody said, you're killing me, roasting old boy like that.
Man, dude, when we're running the grill, watch out. The hot dogs will not be cooked well done. They'll be cooked roasted. It'll be cooked so well as congratulations. It's the next step above well done. But anyways, we also got to see a Lancet on the prowl in this area from another Ukrainian recon drone. And there's the Lancet right there. Just flying through the sky, a little Einstein. Look at it.
It's really moving, too. Look at that.
Man, that thing looks so goofy. It looks like one of those goofy, like, lawnmower RC plane things that someone makes. But anyways, moving on from that and out of that clip, it's now time for us to move on down into the area of Bielorivka, where we got to see the Ukrainians using an L-119 to fire some artillery support.
Дає вказівку на ціль. Навідник вводить її на приладах. Снаряд 105 мм осколково-фугасний.
Постріл!
I love it.
От так от. Полетів таки сьогодні кабанчик. Другий на підході.
Постріл!
Так, легкий.
17,8.
Нова
Let me ask you to
ціль.
shell the gun firing again.
Постріл!
Man, I love the L119.
Постріл! Лучшая работа в мире!
Excuse me. I now break this news to give you all a breaking news update from the live chat. Let me read this the way it's supposed to be read. Leon, none of you lames will enlist, though. Keep living in your parents' basement collecting welfare checks and eating Twinkies.
Welfare checks.
Man,
I still got my
welfare.
CIA check.
Man, welfare. More like welfare. Dude, oh my goodness. There's many jokes that can be made. We're going to hold back from making them. But beyond that, I found that to be funny. I thought that was a funny comment from a funny bot. I respect it, but it's been banned. Moving on from that into our next clip, we also got to see an MTLB destroyed in the northern area of Bakhmut today by the Shadow Wizard Money Gang. Here's the clip. Shadow Wizard Money Gang, we love casting spells. And there goes the MTLB. They're starting to offload. Click skitterbliet! And they all go running into the trees. And there goes the MTLB. One Russian forgot to get off. He's like that little mouse in the Walt Disney cartoon, Matthew, of like the Pied Piper that got stuck outside, like the wall closed, and he went, and then they reopened the wall and it jumped through. Look, he's on top of the MTLB. He's like, and they're like, oh, sorry, Bliet. Thank you, Bliet. And then he goes to run and join the rest of his squad. Oh, and it almost got hit right there. Oh, and it looks like the MTLB is coming to a slow. What's going on here? Oh, it looks like they also forgot to drop off a couple of other people. So now they're hopping out. And dead hit. Oh my god, right in the middle of the vehicle.
Oh man, got bashed up right in the motor pool. That's a shame. Trying to do a drop off, turned into a drive-by.
Dang, dude.
He's really smoking now. He's hotboxing.
Dude, now it's smoking like Walt Disney himself, just chain smoking down there. Look at it.
Oh man, blazing.
Yes.
Oh yes, blazing. That's right. He's blazing in there. Oh dear. Look at that. Terrible. Oh my.
Actually, it's not really blazing. That's actually just a smoke screen. Thanks. Facts and logic. Yeah. But my goodness, is that thing cooking? And that's the end of the clip. Everyone knows pitch and forge. You know what I mean. And moving
and they put
on.
in parentheses foreshadow just in case you got confused.
It's just in case, because everyone has to remember that Shadow Wizard Money Gang. But moving on out of the area of Bakhmut and down towards Oturetine, we got to see a Russian kamikaze on a motorcycle. I've never seen anything like this before. But y'all get to see it now. Here's the clip from the 47th Brigade.
Oh, yeah.
And...
And crap, it caught on fire too, man. This went terribly. He fell off, skinned his leg up a little bit, and then it caught on fire. Terrible.
Terrible stuff. Terrible. But nevertheless, showing you all of brand new kind of tactic being used by Russian stormtroopers in the area, the most elite of the Russian armed forces. But a lot of people have been talking about something else that's been going on in the background, and we're going to move y'all over there into this really quickly before I completely forget about it. Down at the Armavir radar station, the radars have been freaking leveled. Like they're completely unusable now, and they've been completely destroyed. And the Russians have no chance in the future of repairing or replacing these things. And some U.S. officials have told Ukraine that they're kind of worried about that because this is leaving Russia blind, looking down to the Middle East and Central Asia. And this means that the Russians could be scared that there could be a preemptive nuclear attack coming from the West here in the near future, and they'd have no idea until the bombs fell. And a lot of people are wondering, should Ukraine stop or should they keep going? What should they do? And some people are saying that they ought to keep hitting them. Some other people are saying that's a dangerous game to play. But Matthew, what are people thinking about it, and what are you thinking about this as well?
All right. So it looks like the majority of the audience, 58%, said no, Ukraine should keep hitting those nuclear warning radars, while 23% said yes, it's a dangerous nuclear game and Ukraine should stop hitting them, and 12% said I'm indifferent on this one. And to me, honestly, I'm with the 23%. Because at first, I was told by a source that the radar stations could be used to basically trace back the ATACMS launch sites in Ukraine. Right now, I'm seeing conflicting reports between the experts whether or not that's actually the case. It seems like also U.S. officials believe that those nuclear warning radars are only for nuclear deterrence and detecting incoming nuclear weapons. So to me, I would say that seems like a dangerous thing to do, to keep hitting those radars, considering the fact that Russia is kind of unstable, and also the leadership relies completely on nuclear weapons to basically have any sort of deterrence militarily, because their military sucks, and they rely on their nuclear systems to try to ward people off. So, the U.S. is saying that they're worried that Russia's so unstable that that might be what tips them over the edge to end up launching a nuclear attack. And, Ukraine's goal here is to win the war, not cause a nuclear war. So I would say that they need to probably move on from those targets and move back to other ones because it could be dangerous. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say I would have to actually be on the same page as Matthew in the 23%. It's a bit of a dangerous nuclear game, and a lot of people are going to say, oh, the Russians would never nuke Ukraine, because we say that a lot on this channel, but that could start to change things, because the Russians aren't nuking anyone because they know no one's going to nuke them, and because of those radars, they had a really good idea of that. But now they have no idea what's happening towards Turkey, and they have no idea what's happening in the Middle East or Central Asia either. And that could be really concerning for Russian defensive planning, and that could lead them to start getting very squirrely and maybe doing something incredibly rash. And on top of that, these radars have absolutely nothing to do with the war in Ukraine. They're not honestly a pertinent military target. Pretty wild to see them hitting them and destroying them, and it's certainly a feat. But it's not really a military target by any means pertaining to the war in Ukraine. This is not like they can literally pick up the Armavir radar station and just rotate it to look towards Ukraine. It is literally built facing southwards. These radars look to the southwest and the southeast. And so, going off of that, I would have to say I don't really like the idea of hitting them, because I do see where the United States is coming from with this. The uncertainty of not knowing whether a country will conduct a preemptive strike or not may lead the Russians to conduct a preemptive strike of their own, which could be incredibly concerning for everyone involved, and is certainly moving nuclear escalation a little bit closer to being a reality. So that's what I would have to say about that. Not really a big fan, in my opinion. But that's just me. And it appears that the United States government isn't really a big fan of those kinds of attacks either, because it really has, to be quite honest, it has absolutely nothing to do with Ukraine. It really has everything to do with NATO, Turkey, the Middle East, and also some countries in Central Asia. Because now the Russians don't know what we're doing. And it really has not impacted Ukraine at all. It's just impacted NATO and Russia. And it has no direct impact on how the war is unfolding at all inside of Ukraine or inside of Russia, for that matter. So with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, in my opinion. And with that, it's now time for us to move on back into the Ukraine frontline news, moving on back down towards Avdiivka. We also got to see that apparently a Russian barracks was slammed in Pervomaisky in the Luhansk region of occupied Ukraine. And we could see that it's getting cooked right there. And is that Putler?
Oh dear, that is the most accurate portrait I've ever seen.
Geschlägt war Leitman in die Ruski Volk. Man,
it really fits him, actually. It really does. Like, surprisingly, or really not surprisingly at all, this fits him perfectly.
Man, I'm telling you, man, this is wild right there. This picture is actually a very adept description of Vladimir Putin in the modern day. I mean, this is like looking man, damn, that's deep. But anyways, moving on from that, a little bit of news, and further down into the area of Marinka, we also got to see that a Russian T-90M was destroyed in this area. Chad music ensues. You see some explosions happening around the roadworks. And the Ukrainians are about to put that road to work on that T-90M. Check this out. A kablooey. Boosh. Hit dead on the nail on that T-90M. You can see it rolling away, smoking. And when you see the crew bailing, all three of them, three tankista, and there they go. We can also see that the T-90M left like a burn streak down the middle of the road. Now a drone's coming in to finish it off. Kablooey. And that's the end of that clip. But nice to see that they were able to knock out another T-90M in this area. Moving on from that little bit of news, and down into the area of Zaporizhia, we got one clip, and that was the ATACMS launch from earlier. Beyond that, there wasn't really anything that happened down in the Zaporizhia front. It seems to have been a quiet and inactive front today, and that is also the same for the area around Kherson. From what we understand, this area has also been largely inactive as well, and there really isn't anything to report from this area of the front either. But we were able to hear that the air defense report was incredibly good overnight, as the Russians did launch a drone and missile attack, and in the end, Ukraine was able to shoot down 7 KH-101 cruise missiles and 32 Shahed 136s overnight. An absolutely incredible number, and great to see that the Ukrainian air defense is starting to recover from its lower points earlier this year. And so with that, it is now time for us to move on into the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 827 of the war. And without further ado, here is the speech.
Excuse me, please give me a good speech. Thank you.
We have to have the speech played, and here is speech from President Zelensky.
Дорогі українці, українки, коротко про цей день. Перше, я дякую всім нашим захисникам неба, воїнам мобільних вогневих груп, наших повітряних сил України, усіх підрозділів ППО, які щодня, щоночі обороняють наші міста, громади від російських ракет і дронів. Дуже важлива ваша ефективність, ваша влучність, воїни. І ми максимально працюємо для того, щоб додати сили і можливостей нашому захисту неба. Буде найближчим часом багато комунікацій щодо цього з партнерами, щодо нових систем ППО та спільних виробництв. І, зокрема, виробництв дронів, збільшення обсягів та залучення спеціальних інвестицій у такі виробництва. Це і спільні виробництва з нашими партнерами, і робота в нашій країні. Дякую кожному в світі, хто підтримує Україну у цьому і хто переконує інших лідерів, інші держави допомагати. Вже маємо частину підтверджень від лідерів щодо збільшення наших спроможностей ППО. І головне – реалізувати їх повністю і додати ще відповідних домовленостей. Друге, провів кілька нарад із нашою зовнішньополітичною командою про необхідні результати цього червня. Ми детально плануємо перемовини, зустрічі наших представників, зміст документів. Це стосується оборонних пакетів для України і нових безпекових угод, і саміту миру. Фактично, щодня ми додаємо учасників саміту і протидіємо російським спробам зірвати чи послабити саміт. Зараз кожен представник України має чітке своє завдання, як зробити наступний місяць більш результативним для України. І кожен місяць, кожен тиждень, кожен день повинні додавати сили нашій державі, нашому суспільству. В захисті, в нашому захисті. І це залежить від усіх, хто працює на державу і в державі. І третє. Вчора на Харківському напрямку на війні загинула Ірина Цибух, бойовий медик, госпітальєрів. Одна з тих, хто не лише захищав державу, але й робив все, щоб інші долучалися, тренувалися, вчилися бути ефективними і в питаннях фронтової медицини, і в питаннях поваги до українських воїнів, в питаннях меморіалізації подвигу українців. Мої співчуття усім побратимам та друзям, усім близьким Ірини, кожному, хто її знав, і кожному, кого вона надихала боротись заради України і здобувати результат заради України. Дуже важливо, щоб її справи та зусилля усіх наших полеглих героїв були продовжені. Вічна і світла пам'ять усім, хто віддав своє життя заради України. Я дякую кожному і кожній у світі, хто небайдужий і робить все можливе, щоб російське зло скоріше пішло з української землі. Слава Україні!
And Herom
Herom Slava.
And with that, that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 827 of The Wire. And we have loads to continue on with. We get to talk to all of y'all. And it's fun. It's really fun. I absolutely enjoy this segment because this is usually the time where we get the most laughs, the most jokes are thrown around, and we also get to cover some interesting things about the war that we didn't really get to talk about tonight, or we just get to talk about interesting things in general. It is always a fun time, but I have to say to everyone so far that has been watching, thank y'all all so much for watching. There's still loads to go, so if you're new to this channel, stick around because there will be a lot of fun times to be had here in this next segment. It's just that I do want to make this very clear. We are not covering news beyond this point. The entire first hour and 40 minutes of this show was about covering the news of what's happening inside of Ukraine, but the rest of this is more so getting to talk to y'all, getting to talk about what happened today, what y'all want to talk about, what y'all are doing, what y'all want to know about what we're doing, everything else in between. We're here for that right now. That's what we live for. It's what we crave. We enjoy it. And so, with that, I hope that does address that quite well with what we're about to be getting on into. And Matthew, take it away.
All right, so it's now time for our last question segment of the night. But Enforcer, I've seen something in the live chat that I think we should cover to make sure that people know it's not just clickbait, it's real. I wanted to show people that Putin's mansion, quote unquote, if you can call it a mansion, was struck and caught on fire and was destroyed today. If you go check out our likes tab on Twitter, Enforcer, you'll see the post all about it. I want to show people what happens when you're a dictator and the mansion catches on fire. It really burns quite sweetly.
Ooh,
Look at that. Look at that mansion.
Man, look at that. Man, that thing be cooking. And
it's burning.
Man, that thing be roasting. And let's see. Set on fire in Altai. Where is Altai? Altai. It's along the Black Sea coast somewhere. What the hell? That's in, like, Mongolia nearly, dude. Where is this?
They've got another poster on the likes tab that had the location as well. If you
Let's
go
see
scroll
here.
down one more.
One second. Let me back out of this then. Where is that?
Or maybe scroll up one.
No,
on the likes tab.
Oh, I see it. I see. But let's see. Let's see. It is in Altai, so it is in the area in between Mongolia and Kazakhstan. And oh my goodness, dude, that thing burned to the timbers. Shiver me timbers. Yarr. But let's see here. Oh, here's the building.
You had insurance on it.
Insurance. I don't know. I'm kind of doubting he would, but it was near a river, and if we can find the river, this is a Katun River. We need to find the other river that this thing was near. Let's see here. What was the name of the river on the map? The Katun River. So I think that is actually it. I think that was the river that we were looking for over here. And yes, it is. What do you know? Okay, so anyways, now that we know, let's travel up and down the river until we find this compound. So we are on our way. Boom, 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 on our way. Boom, 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 on our way. Boom, boom. Let's see here. Hopefully I don't travel out of the area. It's right along the river. So if we can find something right along the river, we'll be in luck, folks. We'll be in luck. Hang tight.
And also, I see some folks talking about, that doesn't really look like a mansion. Well, here's the thing. Putin has his palaces. That's one thing. They call those palaces. They're like the big stone, like mausoleum, grand-looking houses. And then he has the mansions, which is, this right here is considered a quote-unquote mansion that he had here that burned to the ground. So that's the difference.
So, traveling up and down this river, we will be able to find the compound soon. Just hang tight, everyone. Don't worry. Do not panic. We have this under control. We are the Lee Spring Army. Anything and everything is within our grasp and our ability. So, as long as we keep moving up and down this river, we will eventually find a compound that is in the area. It's now changed to winter, and it's now going back to summer. And we are still moving down this river, and we were able to find ourselves a nice little cut in the landscape for a road right there, but that's not what we're looking for. We're going to keep on rolling and scrolling down the river, and we keep on going through the bends and turns of the Katun River, and we were able to find ourselves a running track or something, and keeping on moving down, we have found ourselves the Bolshevik.
This is the river that Putin is gonna. This is the river that Putin's gonna get on a speedboat and take off in if he's ever like sued and prosecuted.
Man, I'm telling you what, man, it's going to be a great escape or something. But let's see here. I'm still trying to find this place. Have not found it yet.
Man, I'm getting seasick.
Are you?
No, I'm just repeating what Spook said in the live chat.
Oh, I was about to be like, dude, I'm so sorry. I was like, we got to find this thing, though, because we have to prove it's out here somewhere. It's along this river, folks. That we know. But beyond that, we don't know much. You can say that really about the entire show. But let's see here. I think we're getting close. We've got to be getting close because the landscape's starting to look fairly similar.
Give it up. Give it up. Just give it up.
We ain't giving it up. Stop that. There we go. Boom. Okay.
Man, this is like a motif for Hot Dog Man when he doesn't know how to run a stream right, but it keeps going anyway, and it's painful, but it keeps going anyway.
What, are you trying to send me a message or something right now, man? I'm trying to find this damn house. Dude, I'm trying
man,
to
this is boring.
Man, I'm trying to back you up. You said people weren't believing you. Man, I go through all the evidence I could to prove that my brother is saying the truth, because he ain't no liar. He's a truther. But let's see here.
Michael Payne said long-ass river. Yeah, I agree.
It is. This is the freaking longest river. It's got to be longer than the freaking Mississippi River at this point. Listen, y'all. At this point, just out of the principle, I have to find this damn house because this river is going on forever. We've went down, up and down it so much. We have to be able to find this stupid thing. It's somewhere around here. It's got to be.
It's not around here. It's over.
Dude, it can't be over, man. You know what? It is over.
Man, I got a poll, man. I got a poll to address.
Dude, I think when we moved out of the... No, we're still in the Altai region. Okay, I don't know where it would be. I have no idea. It's on this map. You can see that this is the Katun River right there. But beyond that, I have no clue where this really was. It's somewhere... It's somewhere in northern Altai, it shows. But anyways, folks, I give up. I'm so sorry, everyone. I've let y'all down. I'm quitting the channel. I resign. But Matthew, what do we have? What do we have?
All right, so we're jumping into this poll question right here, which says French troops are set to arrive in Ukraine in just a few days. And the question is, will Russia attack these troops? 56% said Russia will purposefully target those troops. 18% said Russia will completely avoid them. And another 18% said Russia will accidentally hit them. And on this one, I'll be honest with you, I'm not really sure. We're not sure exactly how big the contingent of French instructors are that will be going to Ukraine, and we also don't know the location that they're going to be deployed in either. So it's really hard to say, but if I had to take a guess, I'm guessing Russia would probably try to avoid them, and they might accidentally hit a couple, but to purposefully target the troops, that would be pretty big. I'm not sure how the West would react to that, if any reaction whatsoever, but that would be definitely a big escalation. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say that the Russians probably won't purposely target them. Like Matthew said, it probably will be an accidental maiming or killing of a few of them. But that will be a big escalation nevertheless. I just don't think they're going to go out of their way to target them, though, because that would be going out of their way to attempt to escalate this further. And we already know the Russians really don't want this to go further, because in the past, when things could be escalated on quickly by the United States, as the Russians did, they always came out and apologized immediately, like that time that they ended up crashing one of our drones by running into it with an Su-35 over the Black Sea. They went, oh my god, I'm so sorry, please don't hurt us. Like, so I know that they really don't want to escalate, so I hope that does address that well. I don't think they're going to specifically target them. They may accidentally hit them, though. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, and with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and it's now time to jump into our super chat questions once again, because We are fresh out of polls. We love the polls, and the Polish country has a lot of polls, but we're fresh out here in the LSA. But hopefully, we have polls in the live chat to make up for it. No pun intended. But anyways, moving on to our first super chat here, we have one from Suburban Chimney of Silver Spring. Sounds very fancy. They put in a $200 donation. A huge shout out to Suburban Chimney for that massive support. Crazy, the second largest one of the night. And they said, "You guys rock." And Slava Ukraine. And thank you very much.
And thank you so much. And you rock. You rock. And I also have to say this. I don't, this isn't a problem Matthew's in. But back in the day, I used to be able to click on the super chats and be able to read them to make sure I was following along. But nowadays, they don't do that for me. So I do thank you so much for the support. And I also have to say, I don't know why I had to bring that up because your message was really short. It was just you guys rock, Slava Ukraini. But beyond that, I thank you so much for the massive support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I thank you for enjoying this channel so much that you want to support it like that. That is absolutely incredible. And folks like you help to make this channel a reality. Help to make this thing possible and help us to keep this thing rolling. And I got to thank you massively, a huge amount, for enjoying this channel and wanting us to keep this thing running and helping us to keep this thing running because you're making it a reality day in and day out. So it's not really us that rock, it's you that rock because you are the one who helps us to be able to get on air and rock it. And so with that, thank you so much once again, Slava Ukraini. And of course, along live the Lee Spring Army, and thank you for being an absolute legend and supporting this channel and making sure that the Lee Spring Army will never die. Put an LSA in the chat. And with that, we are on to the next one. But thank you so much once again.
All right, and our next super chat is going to go to Trister1, who puts in a $20 donation. Huge shout out to Trister for that support. And he said, LSA, question on the chat.
And the question on the chat, I don't know if we have any questions on the chat. We have questions in the chat. But Matthew, I think we'll be able to go in the back and find those, Matthew. But beyond that, thank you so much once again for the support, Trister. You're an absolute channel legend. Thank you for supporting this channel tonight and helping us continue to make this thing a reality and continuing to make this thing possible. We are greatly appreciative of support like that because if it was not for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to keep this thing running. And so, what do we got for a live chat, Matthew?
And I just pulled a very thick slab of question out of the refrigerator, and I'm throwing it on the grill. Sizzle. This one goes to Adam McLean, who says, how many tanks do you think Russia has left?
It's always so hard to get a good number, Adam, and that's a great question. I would assume, because whenever numbers come out like this, unless if you're the Department of Defense, unless if I was in the Department of Defense and I had access to this information, it would be really hard for me to give an exact number. I would say that they probably have about 700 main battle tanks left, which sounds like a lot, but in reality, that's an incredibly small figure considering I think they started the war with like 8,000 or 9,000 of them. I would say they probably only have about 700 of them operational, and if I had to tack on any extra, maybe an additional 500 more that are being refitted for service in the armed forces. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least the best I would know, but it has to be an incredibly low number, and it probably will not be able to sustain them into next year. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
And up next, whoa, somebody in the live chat said, Matt, is CIA, question mark?
Yeah.
Oh, they put the little, they're flattered sign. Oh, hey, if I'm CIA, I want my check. That's all I'm saying. I want my check. Also, by the way, if you, like, hypothetically worked for the CIA, hypothetically speaking, do you really think the CIA would send you a check directly? Like, would they really do it that way, or would they send you payment through alternative means? I've always wondered that, but I don't know.
Also, really quickly, I would like to say that this is actually our office. I'm just kidding. I'm just playing. We actually are in Birmingham, Alabama. We've been doxxed enough times that there's really no mistake. We are in Birmingham, Alabama. But this is the building that is the headquarters for the Central Intelligence Agency, which is kind of cool. Like here's a picture from that is not the CIA headquarters. This is all not the CIA. What the hell is this?
What the hell? Man, that looks like something that should not be on Google.
I don't know what that is.
Don't scan the QR code, whatever you do, though. It seems like a trap of some sort.
You know,
Don't
If
do
someone's
it.
going to scan
Don't
that
do it.
QR
Don't fall
code.
for
No,
it.
no, no, I'm not doing it. I'm trying to read this here document. That's what I'm trying to do. But
That
those
QR code is so oddly placed right there. That is like ringing. Like nobody, seriously, do not scan that code. I know someone out there's gonna be like, "Oh, you said don't do it, so I'm gonna do it." Don't do it. That looked oddly suspicious right there, and that looked like it could be sketchy.
But look, Matthew, here's the CIA building. Isn't that cool?
That is cool. Is this this is Langley, right?
Yeah, this is Langley, the CIA
It
headquarters.
makes me cringe so bad when I see people on like Twitter go on there and put headquartered Langley on their like Twitter profile. It's like, oh my god, it's like don't put that on there. It's like, come on.
Man, I'll tell you, man, it does make me cringe. But you know, something else that's kind of interesting is that it's probably the farthest out from Washington, D.C. compared to any other government agency, because here's the CIA, and then here is the Department of Defense in the Pentagon, just across the river. And then here in the Capitol, we have the FBI building, which I forgot where it is, but it's somewhere, let's see, it's somewhere in here. Where the hell is it? The FBI building. Let me type that in, because I'm sure we'll find it quicker that way. The FBI building. The J. Edgar Hoover building. There it is. It's literally just right over here. And here's the FBI, which is kind of like internal affairs. That's kind of like our Ministry of Internal Affairs here in the United States. And then you have the CIA, which is way out in the middle of nowhere in Langley, right up here. And it's like the furthest away from it than any other government organization in DC. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because they built the CIA. Well, the CIA building is one of the newest agencies that we have, so I guess that they just had to end up buying the land out here. Maybe because it was cheap, but I don't know why they put it out here.
Take a look at the NSA building, by the way, because it's even better than that.
Let's see, the NSA building.
Like Covert Design said, it's at Fort Meade.
So let's see. Here we go. Here's the NSA. This one?
Can you do the street view on it?
Let's see here. Yeah, let's do the street view. Oh, we can't. Let's see here.
Click the third one. I don't think this is the right one.
Let's see here. Wait, is that it? I think this is it. Dude, actually, never mind. This does take the cake for being the agency headquarters the farthest away from Washington, D.C. It looked like it was the CIA headquarters, but no. It's the NSA headquarters, which is almost all the way up in Baltimore.
Clean.
Dude, that building does look pretty slick, though. I mean, dude,
I think tax dollars.
I think that honestly beats the MI6 headquarters a little bit.
It does. They spend our money well.
Man, dude, listen, man, I like to see my tax dollars spent on stuff like this, though, because at least it's drippy. You know what I mean? Like, it looks dripped out to hell and back. Like, this is kind of cool looking. So, with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. Someone said, the stealth black building. Yeah, we like to make our buildings stealth, because stealth is so important for a stationary object. Also, this looks like the old NSA building over here alongside it, which looks like rubbish. It looks like an old high school, but the new buildings for the NSA are pretty freaking cool. I'm not gonna lie. But with that, let's see here. What's over here?
Also, by the way, Covert Design said, I was stationed there for 2 years. I'm assuming he means at Fort Meade at the NSA. He said nothing worked, phone, laptops, and it sucked. And to my knowledge, I just heard this word on the street. I don't know anything, but I heard the whole building is a big Faraday cage, meaning no signals can get in or out of the building because of the design in the walls. That's what I've heard, and that would make sense if they did that. I think the CIA building's like that as well, but it's just like a big version of a Faraday cage on the entire building.
Also, one other thing I'd like to share with y'all that is pretty cool fun fact. Did y'all know that the biggest restricted area in the United States is, let's see, it's actually not up there, it's down here. It's at Schriever Air Force Base down here. This is actually the biggest restricted area in the United States, which is really interesting because there's a whole bunch that goes on out here, not to get into it too much, but it's also run a little bit by the Air Force and the Space Force. And the Space Force actually has their base now at Peterson. It's not the Peterson Air Force Base anymore. It's now the Peterson Space Force Base, because now this thing is in pretty much entirely Space Force. There's still a little bit of Air Force here, but most of it is now Space Force, which is pretty cool. But anyways, with that, I thought I'd just share some cool stuff about the U.S. government and the Department of Defense with all of y'all about secure facilities and all that kind of stuff. But with that, I hope that does address that. fairly well, and someone said, not Area 51? Not Area 51. Area 51 isn't a restricted area. It's just more so, it really honestly is more so kind of just a normal Air Force base that has a very wide security perimeter. But as far as restricted area goes, to be able to get into, let me go back to Colorado. There we go. To get into Schriever, I believe you have to have some kind of a specific security clearance that allows you into Schriever specifically. No normal security clearance would do. So it's one of the larger restricted areas. It is the largest one in the United States, from what I understand. That's what I was told, at least from a source. I'm not going to say who it was, but anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well, and I thank you all so much once again for listening to that rabbit hole and really appreciating it. But with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. We're on to the next one.
All right. And also, I saw someone say, man, that NSA building is so secure. Oh, goodness. Tell that to Edward Snowden. They'd probably like secured the place up ever since then a little bit, I would imagine, because that was a bit of an embarrassment that he was able to get out of there with that information. But someone said, man, you couldn't even get close to the building. Man, he literally walked up in the building. He said, hello. Went in there, was like, oh, I'll just sit right here at the computer and take a little flash drive here and there and stuff like that. And then he sort of, took off. And is he still in Russia, by the way? Is he still being holed up at the embassy?
Yeah, I think he's still in Russia.
That's crazy. I wonder how he's doing over there after all this stuff happening with Ukraine and Russia. It's like, is he running out of favor yet?
I don't know. Like, that's a good question. I don't know if the guy will ever run out of favor. I think the Russians just keep him around to have a bragging right, maybe. But I don't know. That's a good question. When will Snowden eventually get kicked out of Russia? Because it'll happen eventually. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, it's just a matter of when. I'm sure some people would love to slap a warrant on him. I'm telling you, love to put him in handcuffs. Like the USA especially, they're like drooling to get him back. Like seriously, even after all this time, they're drooling to get him back.
Man, it's crazy too, man. It's like they're eventually going to get that guy. But it is what it is. But let's see. Something interesting here. Something that's very interesting. I noticed that all of the southern area of Fort Meade is a giant parking lot. Like the whole thing. Look at that. There's more parking lot down here than there are buildings.
That is pretty good. If only we had parking like that at like universities and things around Birmingham. That would be tremendous.
Dude, honestly, man, the parking at universities is ridiculous. I think they do it so that way they can get a racket on like the parking crap, because that's the only thing I can think of. I'm like, why the hell do y'all make this so difficult? I have no clue. But beyond that, another thing that's really interesting to me, Matthew, is that let me see here. Wait a minute.
Oh, they're adding on?
They're adding on? Oh wait, they're expanding the Arlington Cemetery, actually.
Oh.
Huh. That's interesting. There's a turnpike that's going through the middle of it right now, so I don't know how that will work, but that is interesting because this has been a big problem. They were constantly running out of space in Arlington, and you can see that it's actually wildly large because it actually started. Something interesting for all of y'all to know. Arlington House is actually Robert E. Lee's mansion, and in the Civil War, he had to end up fleeing the mansion because it immediately got occupied. The banks of the Potomac were occupied by Union forces, and then they started to use the grounds around Arlington House as a burial ground for Union soldiers that would die in battles nearby. And this is what actually created Arlington Cemetery that we know of today, and that's where it started. It was directly around this house, and then it grew out from there. So you can kind of see how large the thing is. I think hundreds of thousands of U.S. Soldiers and veterans have been buried at Arlington, and of course, the only thing you have to have done to be buried at Arlington, I believe, is to have served in the armed forces and been honorably discharged, or die in the service. And you can request to be buried here, and they will fulfill that request, I believe, if I'm correct. That's the last I heard, at least. But the problem is that so many people have been requesting it that it is honestly getting insane, the amount of land that Arlington needs, and so they're constantly trying to find ways to expand it and also find the funding to buy the surrounding areas and then turn them into cemetery. But with that, I hope that does address that well. I've actually been to Arlington Cemetery. It was a very nice place. I gotta say, very, very nice, very well kept up, which is, of course, deserving of what kind of a place this is. And not only that, the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier was pretty interesting to look at. And some people some people in the past I've heard have actually scoffed at how serious the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier is. which sounds really rude and ignorant. But I gotta say, I like that because I saw a video recently of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in Greece, and there were people like actually laughing and just talking through the ceremony, and you never really realize how bad that comes off, like how terribly bad like it would come off badly, everyone knows that, but how terribly bad it comes off when you actually see that happen. You're like, man, that is extremely disrespectful. I like that the United States makes sure that that does not happen at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. But with that,
Also, I just saw Space Cat saying in the live chat. They said maybe it's linked to the book Conflict that was literally written by the former CIA director that called you out. It's in the Enforcer bio. I'm surprised that the propagandists, also the people that hate the channel, have not taken that tidbit right there. Because we were shouted out in that book by David Petraeus, who was the former CIA director. I'm surprised nobody's been saying, "Oh, look, they were shouted out by the former CIA. They're with the CIA." It's like, I know. It's like you just shouting out the channel because you like the channel. It's like, come on. It's just like we were very flattered by it. We were very flattered and very unexpected all the way around. Just super cool to see it though. When the Enforcer said, "Hey, look, we're in this book," and he showed it to me, I was like, "What? Are you kidding me?" I was like, "We're literally right there in the book, like listed in the midst of these other sources."
And what's also really cool is that tonight we actually have another major guest on that we were told about. Did you see that, Matthew, a little bit earlier on?
Yes, he's been here actually multiple nights, but he's under an alias for obvious reasons.
Yeah, but that's actually pretty cool. We actually have a pretty decent revolving list of pretty high up guests that just come onto the show and watch, which is always kind of interesting because I never really think about that. I never really want to think about that because then that might throw me off. But that's still pretty cool to think about that folks like Petraeus and others are on the show and watching it to the point we got mentioned in the book. And also another thing, let's see, one second, let me type it in. If y'all are wondering what book it is, I'll put it up on the screen for y'all. It is this one. It is called Conflict, the Evolution of Warfare from 1945 to Ukraine, and we actually show up in the Ukraine war section as a mention on the way that war has been completely changed on how the world sees it. We were mentioned with a couple of Twitter accounts, and then we were mentioned as the only YouTube channel in the entire book, which is a very high honor because there's a million other YouTube channels that do this that could have been put in that spot, that could have been listed as a new and innovational way to see a war unfolding around the world and the news covering it. But we were the only ones that were picked, which was incredibly cool and an incredibly high honor. And we thank Petraeus and also Andrew Roberts, who also co-wrote the book with Petraeus, greatly for both watching the show and putting us in the book. That was an incredibly high honor and really cool to know that we are actually in the pages of history at this point, at least in the book Conflict. And so with that, I hope that does address that incredibly well for everyone, because that is a good point to bring up, Space Cat. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here is going to go to, and also Jaka said, wait a minute, why were you mentioned in the book? Like, why did he mention y'all in the book? I have no idea, honestly. Like, I have no idea. Like, apparently he was just going through YouTube and saw the stream, was like, oh, he likes what we were saying, and he thought it was good. He thought it was a good analysis, and that's a high praise coming from a former CI director that this channel apparently has decent analysis from time to time.
And also, we were just, before that, he was actually the commander of CENTCOM as well, I think, for 4 years, so that was crazy huge. I mean, he was a 4-star general.
Yeah, that too, and also the fact that we're being watched by the Ukrainians, that like the units themselves that are fighting on the ground. Like we saw the Terra Ops unit yesterday hop in and say hello, and also we're being watched by former CIA directors and former generals and things like that. Not trying to hype ourselves up; they're just literally watching. We haven't invited them here or anything like that. They just show up and watch. Y'all would be surprised at some of the people that watch the show that we don't say publicly because they don't want to be said publicly. Because some people want to really closely guard their image and they don't want to put their name out there and say, "Hey, look, I'm over here watching this or that," because you know the media could pick it up and say something with it. There's all kinds of stuff that could happen. But there's a lot of people watching that y'all would be shocked to know are watching from time to time. So it's really cool to know.
Yeah, it's wild. There's a really, to be quite honest, from what we know, at least even on the public end that we can say, and then on the end of people who have said that they've been watching, but they don't want anyone to know, so they request that we do not disclose their names, which we will always uphold, whether in public or private. One thing that is really interesting is that there are actually a lot of people who were formerly in the U.S. government and are currently inside of the U.S. federal government specifically that watch this show pretty regularly, which is something really weird. Like I'm not gonna lie, like I'm like, y'all watch this? I'm like, Like, you know, because we're just running the show. I'm just doing what I do, talking how I talk. I've talked like this since high school about stuff like this, but nevertheless, it's good enough that people want to watch. I don't know why, but we're very honored by that. Like I never know why anyone chooses to watch this show, to be entirely honest. It's beyond me, but I'm entirely honored that everyone wants to watch it and finds it something that they want to make a part of their routine. But anyways, with that, I hope that did address that the best I could. The best, I say, the best. For 1 second, sorry, I had to go look down. I was like, where in the world's Yorktown? And it was way down there. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one is going to go to BC Skyman. He threw in a $35 donation tonight, and huge shout out to BC for always supporting the channel on a regular basis. And I don't see a comment to address, but huge shout out to you, BC Skyman, for that support once again. And Enforcer, what say you?
And thank you so much for that support, BC Skyman, and helping this channel to keep on running, because it is folks like you who help to make this thing possible. And I got to thank you greatly for that. Thank you for helping this thing to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to be here right now. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And of course, thank you, BC Skyman, for being an absolute old guard and a channel legend. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to John Garner, who puts in a $20 donation. And huge shout out to John as well for that support. He said, as much as I want an LSA t-shirt, I would rather support the LSA directly.
Hey, thank you for the support. And now with this channel to keep on running. And I thank you for wanting to support this channel directly, but don't worry. The shirts also support the channel directly as well. It's just a decent amount of it gets eaten up in just the unit cost of a shirt or a patch or anything along those lines. But still, it does support this channel, and it also helps out Ukraine a little bit, with 10% of it being donated to United 24. But still, I thank you so much for being a channel legend and an old guard as well. And wanting to support this channel and wanting to help it to keep running, because folks like you help to make this thing possible, and we are always greatly appreciative that y'all continue to help this channel to keep on running, so that way the flags of the Lee Spring Army can continue to fly high around every corner of the globe, all the way from Germany and all the way across the seas. I believe we have all the way to Australia. I'm not really sure if we sold any to Japan. I don't think we did. So I think Australia and Germany are the far reaches. Well, actually, no. I think we have one LSA flag in Sweden, which I think would be the farthest east that we have right now.
Switzerland. We have one in Switzerland, actually.
Well, Germany and Sweden are farther east than Switzerland. Switzerland's like in the middle of Europe. Like we have LSA flags in every corner of the globe. Just to name a few countries that I would know off the top of my head: Canada, the United States, France, Germany, Switzerland, the United Kingdom, Norway, Sweden, Australia, and New Zealand. And then I think, let me think, I'm trying to rake my brain. I think there was one or two that went to some other countries, but I can't think of them all.
If you shout a country out, I'll tell you yes or no, because I pretty much have it memorized at this point. Yes.
Lithuania?
Yes.
Latvia and Estonia?
I think Latvia, and yes, we have, let's see, Wilderness LSA Latvia. He has one. Estonia, I'm not really sure, honestly, about Estonia.
Let's see, the Czech Republic?
No.
Slovakia?
No.
Austria?
Yes.
Hungary?
No.
Damn. Romania?
Yes, definitely.
Octavian Timrosanu, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, yeah. Turkey?
Turkey, I don't think so, although I'm kind of unsure.
Greece?
No.
Dang it. Let's see. Ireland?
Yes, we do.
Yay! Is it Spain and Portugal?
Spain, yes. Portugal, I don't think so, but maybe.
Let's see here. Japan and South Korea.
Japan, no, and South Korea, no.
Dang it. I hate that. Taiwan, maybe?
No, definitely not.
Dang it. Philippines?
No.
We got a couple of viewers in the Philippines. And then I know that the Netherlands definitely has a few flags.
Oh, yes, for sure.
And Belgium?
We got Germany and United Kingdom as a lot.
Yeah, those are probably our largest contingents in Europe. But what about Belgium?
Belgium, I think we had one.
So they're really, so LSA flags really cover the entirety of Northern Europe. Like every country in Northern Europe has an LSA flag. And I would assume including Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and Finland.
Oh, definitely. All three of those as well, and especially Australia. Like UK, Germany, Australia. Let's see. I think it was also Poland, and I think that might have been the biggest outside of Canada and the United States as well.
And so there is truly a flag of the Lee Spring Army on every corner of the globe. If you were to say that the sun never sets on the Lee Spring Army, it would actually be a true statement because there are enough flags in every corner of the globe to make sure that when the sun is setting on one LSA flag, it's rising on another on the other corner of the world. So that is actually really cool to think about. Like that's something that I never think about until I say it. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Like, and I get myself hyped up because I'm like, that is so neat to know that the Lee Spring Army is such an international thing, and it's actually a pretty big thing that there are flags of the Lee Spring Army in every corner of the globe for the most part. Also, Matthew, did we have any at all that went to any country in Africa?
We might have had. I think we might have had one. No, I was about to say South Africa, but no, I don't think we did. We didn't have any go to Russia either. By the way, I saw somebody ask that. It would have never made it through customs. I could guarantee you that.
And also, sanctions wouldn't have allowed us to even send it anyway. So we would have gotten a lot of trouble if we tried to ship something to Russia. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one is going to go to Andy L, who throws in a $20 donation, and huge shout out to Andy L for that support. He said, "We are LSA because you have no agenda."
And I thank you so much for the support, Andy L, and helping this channel to keep on running. And I'm glad to see that you enjoy this channel because I have no agenda, specifically a political agenda. That is something that is so hard to escape in the world, and especially today, because of course we do not cover politics or anything like that, but many of y'all will know that there is one thing that has dominated the headlines on literally every channel, everywhere in the world for one day today. And I'm so happy that we've been able to get through without having to cover it, without having to touch it, because it would still break the no politics rule, even if it is something that everyone's talking about. And I do ask that no one starts talking about it, just because I kind of hinted on it a little bit right there. I always like to know that we can remain a channel that doesn't divide people on politics, and instead just unifies people around optimism and a common goal of seeing this Western sphere that all of us live in continues to succeed and thrive. It's something that, interestingly enough, puts us on the same level on most nights as people like Tucker Carlson, who do nothing but really live and thrive on politics, and the Young Turks, who do the same thing in the opposite direction on the political spectrum. And we are able to consistently either beat them or be neck and neck with them, taking a non-political approach to things and just covering news for what it is, which is the news. And I think that that's absolutely incredible. It certainly shows that there is a world out there for non-politically biased news, Andy L. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't understand. Because if you've ever heard people in the background, and I heard this a lot when I started this channel, because I said when I started this channel, there will be no politics on my channel. I said I cannot stand it. I cannot stand extremely politically minded people because they seem to be very emotionally charged more so than logically minded, and that's just something I generally tend to stray away from. And people, hell, my own parents, they've actually come around, but I remember back in the day, all of my friends, all of my parents were saying, that is so stupid. A news channel like that just cannot survive. You have to go into politics. You have to have a political opinion. And I said, hell no. I said I would rather live in obscurity and not have a channel than go into politics. I said I'd rather just be non-political and cover the news the way I think it should be covered. The way that a lot of people apparently enjoy to be covered, because we're number 62 in the world right now. We're the top 100. We're topping the top 100 charts daily right now, and we do not pick a political side. And I think that's absolutely incredible. I think that's actually showing as well, maybe to some people out there who pay attention to how news is covered, that there is a world, there's an actual major demand for news that does not get political. Because everyone has gotten into this news trend, mainstream news, every other YouTube channel except for us, where everything has to have a political slant to it in one form or another. It has to go one way or the other. There is nothing in between, nothing down the middle. Or they cannot help themselves but to make a comment on their own personal politics, because it would kill them not to. And That is so annoying to me. Because and I haven't gone on this rant in a long time, Andy L, but isn't news? I mean, it's not anything that you can really fit your emotions into. And of course, many people will be like, "Well, don't you have like a political take?" Yeah, of course, I have a political take like all of y'all do. But that's not my business to make my political take the news. That is not my place. My place is to tell y'all the news that y'all are wanting to hear. Y'all want to hear about what's going on in the war in Ukraine. Y'all really don't want to hear about domestic politics. And I don't really want to talk about it. Like, my opinions are my opinions, your opinions are your opinions. No one's going to change anything. It's just yelling into the wind. It's completely pointless. So why even try? I mean, it's just it's goofy to me. It really is. And I just cannot stand that all major news just leans into that so much. Like, for example, the Francis Scott Key Bridge impact. Like, as soon as that happened, the political conspiracy theories were coming out of the woodwork. I mean, from everyone everywhere. The bridge was hit because so-and-so wants America to die, or the bridge was hit because of the Russians, and this is being done because of the other side, and they want to ruin the country and screw it because of something that happened a few years ago, and all that stuff. And it's just ridiculous. Like, no one can ever just report news and go, wow, that was a tragedy that happened in Baltimore. Terrible to hear. Hopefully the federal government can find some way to fix the issue, because the city of Baltimore can't afford that. None of that. Like, no logical thought to be had on that bridge. It was just everyone saying all kinds of crazy stuff about it, and that's why I just cannot cover that kind of news. I just can't get into that kind of craziness or that kind of insanity, and I like to know that we are able to have a politically free agenda where we do not cover politics and we just cover news. And I will tell y'all something. It truly feels like a breath of fresh air to even run this channel that way, because I get up every day and I literally can't get news from anywhere. Like, I don't want to make the news all the time. Sometimes I just want to hear other people tell the news, and I can't, because I get on CNN, I get on Fox, I get on ABC and CBS, and it's nothing but political dogma from all of them, and it just is something that I just cannot stand anymore. I don't even look at those channels anymore, because it just makes me sick to see how badly perverted news has become these days. And I hope that this channel starts to really battle. I mean, hell, we've already beaten major mainstream news organizations on YouTube live stream wise on a daily basis these days. I mean, we're beating Fox and CNN and everyone all the time now. If we can keep on doing that, eventually they will start to change the way they report the news, and hopefully things will start to return back to a good equilibrium. It's a very high task to achieve, but I believe it's one that is achievable with time. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. So real quick, to return to a point we were talking about earlier, I saw a viewer send this to me about 40 minutes ago. I just saw it on Twitter right now. He said, Enforcer Matt, you are correct. It's limited strikes the U.S. is now allowing for Ukraine to do inside of Russian territory. And it looks like right here, it says the U.S. admin quietly gave the go-ahead for Ukraine to launch limited airstrikes with U.S. weapons inside of Russia, and it's very limited, and it seems to be only around the Belgorod region. So it's not a full-on, they can basically go hog wild and attack Russia all they want, with U.S. weapons, that is. It looks like the U.S. is barely giving any permission whatsoever to do anything inside of Russia. So considering that, Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say thank you for clarifying that about 40 minutes ago, so that way we know what it is. It sounds like my information was a little bit foggy or skewed, and it's more so limited strikes instead of unlimited soup and salad like I was told earlier. So with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you so much for correcting that. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And moving on to our next super chat. Excuse me. This one goes to Bud, who puts in a $10 donation. And thanks very much, Bud, for that support. He said, if all 32 members of NATO entered Ukraine and completely removed Russia, what could Russia even do about it? Nukes? And realistically, who would they even attack? And do they have any other options?
That's really the only thing they could do, because conventionally they really have nothing to strike back with, so it would have to go to nuclear weapons at that point. That's all they have left. And it would be tactical nuclear weapons. It wouldn't be strategic ones hitting America immediately. It would be tactical ones wiping out our armed forces on the field. So I hope that does address that well, because there's not really a lot more they could do. I mean, if they're getting beat badly like that in Ukraine, they're certainly not going to start offensives into NATO territory. That would be ridiculous. They wouldn't even have the manpower to do something like that, most likely. So going off of that, I hope that addresses that the best I can, because that's the way I would look at it. I mean, if we went in there, there's not really a lot they could do but pull out tactical nuclear weapons, because they would pretty much be overpowered to the point that that's the only weapon they would have left to do some kind of damage. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Covert Design, who puts in that $10 donation. And he says, do you think that hitting both ports makes Russia use the bridge again for military use, and then having an even better justification to use American weaponry on the bridge? Covert Design, me and you are thinking literally exactly the same. Because that's exactly what I said earlier. I said that, I'm not even going to repeat it really, because Covert Design covered it so well. But I agree. Very good thought. But Enforcer, what say you?
Man, that's the exact analysis I gave earlier in the stream. I said, now that both of the ferry crossings are out because the ships sank at their moorings, they'll have to go to the bridge. It's all they have left. So yes, I would say that that is exactly what would happen. They will probably end up striking the bridge and using that as a legitimization of the strike that was planned earlier on this year. Also, what is a lapidarium?
What the hell?
Oh, it houses a whole bunch of ancient artifacts. Wasn't that neat?
That's weird.
Look at this kid. Look at this kid here. But let's see here. That is actually pretty cool. What is this? This is in Greek. You know, I completely forgot for some reason. Like, I had an aneurysm right there. I completely forgot that parts of Crimea and also southern Ukraine were controlled by the Greeks at a point. Like, Kerch was controlled by the Greeks. Odessa, the area around Odessa, was a Greek port city. And I believe that there was some kind of a Greek trading settlement near to where Sevastopol was, but it wasn't a major trading settlement at that time in history. And the modern day Sevastopol really has absolutely no connection to the Greek settlement, because when the Greeks kind of fell off a little bit later on in history, the trading port kind of just died. Like it was completely abandoned and no one lived there anymore. But there are artifacts to show that there was a Greek settlement somewhere around the area of Sevastopol during that time, which is really cool. Also, another thing, Matthew, is that did you know that the Black Sea is actually so deep that at its deeper levels there is no oxygen, meaning that it is one of the best places to find preserved shipwrecks from different eras, and it is the only place where an intact Greek longship was found that sank, I think it was like in 1600 BC, and it was completely intact, like the timbers, the actual mainmasts, all that stuff, completely intact with its cargo on board.
Yeah, I actually never knew that, but that's really good news, actually, because that means historians in the future will be able to go back and look at the sunken Russian fleet and be able to figure out what happened really easily.
Yeah, dude, they'll be looking at the charred marks on the side of the ship going, damn, they beat him.
They'll say, damn, there's a whole warehouse down here. We've been paid her.
Dude, they'd be like, dude, we could make salvage money off this crap. But also, Matthew, they'll be like that kid on that meme I showed you last time. We were joking around. They're like, this was a Playboy in Braille. And the guy sitting there feeling it with his hand, and he went, damn. That'll be like modern archaeologists in the future when they see the whole Russian Navy down there. They'll go, damn. Dude, let me go find that. Let me go find that so I can get the sound bite. Let's see here. Playboy in Braille meme. Here we go. I found it.
Let's see this masterpiece.
This is a limited edition.
Hang on. Okay, there we go. This is it.
Braille Playboy from 1977. The library.
Damn.
Dude, that would be the future archaeologists if they found the Black Sea Fleet. They go, damn.
That dude did damn better than I can even do it. I say it all the time. Damn. He said, damn.
That meme will never get old. That is such a good one. And in certain depths said, oh no. It's just like, no, it's not bad. I mean, it was a funny meme and it was completely clean and PG. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And I thank you so much once again for support. And thank you for helping this channel to keep it running. And I hope that we did address that question well about the KERCH trade certain death. And with that, we are on to the next one. Thank you so much once again for the support.
All right, and our next one is going to go to Fishing and Kayaking, who puts in a $5 donation. And thank you very much for that support. And said, has there been any fallout from the last few days in Russia? And are the people waking up?
I haven't heard of any fallout, actually, fishing and kayaking. I think the Russian public is still mute and deaf to what's going on to them. So at the moment, no. But I feel in the future, eventually something will have to happen again. I just don't know when, and I don't know how big it'll actually be, because it seems like the Russian public is very weak when it comes to having a backbone against the government. But with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, Value Raider was pointing out something in that meme just a second ago I didn't even notice until now. He said it like he was deaf, not blind. Yeah, the whole joke was he was supposed to be blind. He had like the glasses on and everything to like be blind, but yet he said it like he couldn't hear himself talking. He said, "Damn." It's like, dude, it's like, turn up the volume. I can't see.
Dude. God. God dang.
Oh.
Oh man. Oh my goodness. Man, tonight's a great night. You know what I mean? But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well. Good point though. Good point. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Chunky Cat, who puts in a 5 and says, what do you guys think of the JAS Gripen compared to other jets? And I guess it has no match against an F-35 or F-22 because of their stealth from Sweden. And me personally, the Gripen is better for rougher environments, rougher runways, and it's generally, in my opinion, quicker to launch and also deploy it. And the F-16 is a very competent jet, but it does require a little bit of a more refined runway. And the F-16 is ultimately what Ukraine will be getting because the Gripen is now on permanent hold. But I think the Gripen honestly might have been a better fit for Ukraine. But F-16s work as well. But Enforcer, what say you?
Dude, when I looked at this camo pattern right here, I went, damn. I was like, that is such a good looking camo pattern on this thing. But to answer your question, Chunky Cat, great question. I honestly, like there is no such thing. Well, if we're talking in reality, there is such a thing as a superior weapons platform, but that also has to do with the budget and the funding that an armed force has for a country that would make a platform superior. And as far as Ukraine is concerned, I actually think that the Gripen is a superior platform compared to the F-16, simply due to the fact that it's easier to maintain, it's cheaper to operate, and also it's a cheaper aircraft to buy. So overall, it is much better for Ukraine than an F-16 would be, or an F-22 and an F-35. And not only that, F-16s, F-35s, and F-22s are fine-tuned machines that require perfect environments, pretty much, to be able to operate in on the ground. The Gripen does not require those sorts of things. And not only that, if anything did go wrong on the ground and an engine needed to be replaced, it's a lot cheaper and easier to do on a Gripen than it would be on any other kind of aircraft from the United States. So, to be entirely honest, I would have to say that the Gripen is probably a better aircraft for Ukraine than any of the modern-day fifth-generation aircraft that we have here in the United States, simply due to the cost and the ease of being able to operate this thing. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least in my opinion, Chunky Cat, because I think that that would be the most important determining factor in saying what would be better for Ukraine. Although, by far, the F-22 and really the F-35 is leaps and bounds above the Gripen in technological ability, just because it's a fifth-generation aircraft. But that, you know, every country can't go, yes, I would love to have a fifth-generation F-35. Like, the Democratic People's Republic of the Democratic Republic of the Congo can't go, yes, I would love like an F-35. They can't. They wouldn't ever be able to afford one. But an aircraft that would be affordable for them would be the Gripen. And so for them, it would be the better option. It would be the most efficient thing that they get for the cost. They would be actually able to use it and afford it. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, Chunky Cat. Thank you so much for the support, and thank you for being one of our Swedish viewers. Really cool to know that you're from Sweden, and really cool to know that you're one of our viewers too. And again, thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, I was just told in the live chat that there's been another successful hit by the Ukrainian forces on an oil depot in the port of Kavkaz, Russia, just off the Kerch Strait. We have really good 4K photos of that, and it is filling the sky with smoke. It's a humongous hit, and it's on fire big league. I'm telling you, big league. I'm trying to see here. It says it was not an attack, or it was not an attack caused by a careless smoker, but it was an attack by apparently Ukrainian drones this time, so a very big success.
I'll tell you what, man. I like it. We got it in 4K Ultra HD because I was able to find it. No comment. But anyways. Oh! That thing be smoking! Just to
There it is.
Just to show you where this is right here. These are the oil depots that are on fire. And guess what, Matthew? Guess what? They are literally at the landing on the eastern side. So the docks are out on the western sides, up here in the northern landing point, and down here in the southern landing point for the railroad ferries. And now the oil depot on Kavkaz, on the other side of the strait, where these ferries would go to, is also out for oil. Isn't that terrible?
Terrible. I'm telling you what, it's almost like the ships won't have any oil to get around on there in the Kerch area. It's a shame.
Man, it's a
They won't need it anyway because they're getting sunk and also destroyed, you know.
Also, here's the cafe. Boy, drinks up.
Oh.
Slurp, slurp.
Yes. Great place to have a coffee out here.
I don't know where you get the coffee, but, you know, you get it from somewhere, I guess.
Oil.
Also, hang on. These trucks, how do you even get them out?
You don't. That's the trick.
I guess not. Russian logistics efficiency at its finest. Also, one other thing. Oh my gosh. Dude, they turned this entire place into like a coal heap. And then what's down here? It's down here at the very end.
Oh, it's like an oil slick.
Man, that thing be looking slick. that thing be looking slicky. Dude, I bet you if you came out here and you like writhed around in the ground like an orc would, you'd come up like all like covered in like oil sludge. It would be horrendous. It would be terrible.
You'd come out of there like those ducks on those Dawn commercials. They're having to put the dish soap on them because of the unfortunate oil spills in the Gulf. He'd be coming out looking like that. Put some Dawn on me. Come on,
Dude,
please.
They'd be playing that sad emotional song, showing them like gently rubbing you with the soap. You know, it's like you're getting rubbed with the soap. Oh, man.
I don't like that image. I don't know about no gently rubbing with soap now. I don't know about all that.
Dude, you know who would like that, though? Ew,
oh, man.
Yeah, dude, it's Jinx. Oh, man, dude, he would love that. He'd eat it up. He would be going, wow, totally called for it. Wow, that's exactly what I wanted. But anyways, with that, I hope I addressed that fairly well. The best we can, of course. But with that, it is now time for us to move on into the next one. But thank you once again for the support, Chunky Cat.
Yes, indeed. And our next one here goes to CK Bold, who puts in a $5 donation and says, take a live chat question. And CK Bold has ordered the number 5 with fries, no drink. Thank you very much, CK Bold, for that support. And this one is going to go to Nick M, who says, any more news on China would be appreciated if y'all got the chance.
At the moment, it's kind of died down for a little while. There's not really a lot of rhetoric for us to talk about, or really a lot of military action. We still understand that the Chinese are requisitioning civilian ships, but that's kind of a day-by-day thing that isn't really that eventful or has enough proof behind it for us to show. But that's what we know at the moment. So it does look like they still may be planning on an invasion or a beginning of the war here soon. It's just that we don't know when, and we don't really have enough to be able to cover it, Nick M. But still, I thank you so much once again for asking about that, because we are keeping an eye on that in the background, and do not fret. I bought another $50 of books last night on the Chinese military. These were actually written by the Department of the Army, and I'm going to be trying to read about what they understand about Chinese doctrine and tactics, and also a whole bunch of other stuff as well, to just try and get a good idea of where they're coming from and what they're planning on doing. Funnily enough, y'all, there's not really a lot that's written about the Taiwanese Army, or the Air Force, or the Navy for that matter. There's like no literature out there about them, and it's making it really hard to come up with what their defense would look like. But I was able to find one book that might cover it, and it costs like $50. But I'm getting it. I'm gonna read them all, and then I'm gonna make a video on it and tell y'all what I've been able to find out. And so, with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you so much once again for support Nick M and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Bud. And thank you very much, Bud, for that $5 support once again. He said, LSA, we're not a gang, we're an army.
Yeah, baby!
You sure about that, buddy?
What do you mean, Jack? Popping corn.
What?
Listen, look, don't make me take you and buy ice cream, but popping corn. He was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys. And when we went on vacation, I used to go to the Springs, but anyway, look. Basically, that's it. But I don't even know where I'm going with that anymore. But anyways, I hope that does address it well. The Lee Spring Army is not. It's not a gang. It's an army. It's in the name. But still, thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I hope I was able to address that incredibly well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and real quick, I'm trying to. Let's see. Let me type you something real quick, because I just got some very interesting news from somebody. There. Don't say it on the air, but there's some piece of news for you. But anyways, moving on to our next super chat here. I'm going to let the force read that off real quick.
Yay!
Do you see that?
Oh, no.
Man,
like,
it was a big one.
Was it filmed?
No, I'm not kidding. It might have been, but I don't have the footage right now.
Oh, I hope it was filmed.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
We can't tell y'all about it right now. We might tell y'all later, though. It's, you know, we'll tell y'all later.
Yeah, huge shout out to whoever that was. It is funny as hell. I don't even know what in the world happened with that. We can't even tell y'all right now because we have to get more confirmation on this story and everything. But oh my goodness, if that was true, my God, it's so funny. I can't believe it. I'm getting a laugh out of that one. Oh my goodness. Realigning jaws, more like realigning moods. Oh my God. Anyways, I gotta stop talking about it because I'm eventually gonna spill the beans if I keep on going. And certain devs have spilled. No. But with that, we're gonna be moving on into the rest of the question. We might spill soon, certain dev. Well, not tonight. Soon as in like maybe in a few days or something. We'll maybe touch on it a little bit on stream. But we have to find out more about this. But it is hilarious. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one is going to go to Marc-Andre Brunette, who puts in a $5 donation. And huge shout out to you, Mark, for that support once again. He said $5 the maximum I can give on this channel. He said, but I want to take the occasion to thank to all the big donors. And Mark, by the way, your support means a lot. The $5 means as much as the $100 to us. It's very much appreciated, and thank you very much for it. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I got to thank you as well, Mark. And the thing is that it never matters too much to us the amount of support, because for some people $5 is like giving $500, and for some people giving $500 is nothing. You know, it just depends on person to person. What matters to us is that you'll enjoy the channel enough that you'll find it worthwhile to help us to keep this thing running, whether it be $1, whether it be $5, whether it be $100, whether it be $500. And some of y'all don't even have the ability to give, and in that instance, y'all in the chat just saying, hey, I love the show, keep it up. That is as much to us as a super chat. And I got to thank you so much for the support, and Mark, and helping this thing to keep on running, but never feel bad about throwing in a what you would believe to be a low amount of support, because it's not the support that counts, it's the thought that really counts with that. And I got to thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep on running and helping us keep it rolling, because it is folks like you who make this channel possible. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And also, I'm going to move on to the next one. I'm going to skip saying anything. But anyways, our next one goes to AMX10 Speedy Bang Bang.
Spill.
Say what?
Spilling. What were you about to say?
Here's what I was about to say. What we're laughing about is, we're not going to get into the name or anything like that, but a particular person who has harassed the hell out of us got harassed, it sounds like today, himself. Out in public this time, not on the fake world, the internet, and was apparently shouted down in real life. So, oh gosh, have mercy. I don't even know why this person goes and posts these fails themselves, writes them out and posts them like a diary of a wimp on the internet, but they do it.
Wait a minute,
and
they
I get a
posted
hell
it?
of a big laugh. Yeah, that's where I got the information
No
from.
way! No way! Oh my
Yes
God.
way.
Wait a minute, and it was one of our people?
No, it wasn't one of our people. It was just random.
Huh. Oh, that's I hope we can get some more info on that because that is funny as hell. Like, just to let y'all know, our lives at some points have felt like they have become true hell at some points over the past year. We just don't say it on air, but sometimes it feels like it has. And to know that the main orchestrator of that got a piece of his own medicine in person today, which by great fortune has never happened to us. That is just sweet justice at this point. I find that to be wonderful to hear. And waiter, another hit piece, another hit piece. But oh man, dude, I cannot believe you're gonna have to give me some more details on that off air because that sounds like juice. But with that,
But get this though, get this. In the midst of all this shouting down, there was nothing physical to happen, by the way. It was just simply somebody saying their opinion. So that's First Amendment protected speech, as someone always likes to say. That is what that is. He has the right to say what he wants. He said it very loudly though, and apparently that scared the hot dog man. But the hot dog man said, "Oh man, put your dukes up. I'm not going to have it. What's your name? What do you want?"
wait a minute. He didn't realign his jaw immediately. What? I thought he was Steven Seagal or something. What happened?
No realigning of jaws, just realigning of egos, and one ego was very bruised that day, leaving the sports bar.
First it was the date that went terribly. Then it was the naked mole rat he showed on air when he looked up Romania. And then now on top of all, and then on top of him losing subscribers because he talks about politics, which no one wants to hear about. And now he's moved on to getting shouted at in public by someone who's beefing with him. Life just doesn't get better for that guy. He is the George Costanza of YouTube. Like, it just never gets better for him, and he will keep trying even harder. I can already know that right now that OBS on his end is getting spooled up, and a hit piece is about to be made about us right here, right now. But I gotta say, that is funny. Bring it out. We gotta bring it out.
It's time.
It's time. We've got to bring it out. Okay, hang on, everyone. Hang tight really quickly. I'm getting it for us. All right, so here we go. Oh, hello there! Hey, it's the Vomit Baby!
It's so good to see you here in the sports bar of all places. Could we have a beer, Governor? A brandy to celebrate this moment?
Kiss my ass, put your dukes up.
I'm telling you. Wait a minute, what'd you say? You don't like me? Oh my God. I have to leave immediately. I'm not realigning jaws. I'm leaving. Where's my keyboard? I need my keyboard, please. I'm nothing without my keyboard, please.
The world shivers when a nice guy loses his cool.
Oh man, he's got to carry that keyboard around. He said, "I'm concealed carrying my mechanical keyboard. Watch out."
Dude, he said, "Wait until the people on YouTube find out about this."
Yeah.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Oh man, he's gonna whip out a keyboard and type some threats and insults. He's gonna get them.
Oh my lord, dude, he will run away from that sports bar, but I guarantee you there's gonna be some strongly worded emails going that guy's way. He's gonna leave him a 1-star on Yelp.
Oh.
Oh my lord.
Oh man. He said, "Can I order the bloomin' onion because I need some help?"
Dude, he sat there and said, "Ew, yuck, what the hell? No one's supposed to approach me in public. Ew, yuck. I'm so sorry, everyone. Forget it. Forget like it never happened. Oh, what the F? God dang."
Oh dear.
Oh my lord. Oh, what a night. What a night.
Oh goodness. But anyways, we better move on.
Yeah,
from
we
this,
gotta
man.
move
We
on.
could go on for ages about this.
God dang.
Oh, that Twitter bullshit.
Not having Twitter bullshit. We're on to the next one.
All right. And our next one is going to go to Amex10 Speedy Bang Bang once again, and he puts in a $5 donation. He says, "I actually feel physically sick, as China are telling us as clearly as possible that they will take military action against Taiwan at some point in the near future.
And I would say that that is something to be a little concerned about, but hopefully we'll have things under control. That's really all I can say about it. It's concerning, of course, AMX-10 Speedy Bang Bang. I can't pretend that it's not. But hopefully the United States will be there to back up Taiwan, or be there enough to make sure that China never actually follows through with the beginning of war with Taiwan. That would be my hope. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. I thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Cat Chaser, who puts in a $2 donation. And thank you very much, Cat Chaser, for that support and helping to keep the channel running. And we also have a 2 from Wyatt Logan, who says, is Hot Dog Man Chris's dad?
Oh no. Oh no, a double whammy. First, a guy gets in a shouting match at a sports bar and runs away to go typing on the keyboard like a keyboard warrior. And now this? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think he is. Like, just getting that out there. And so with that, thank you so much for the support, Wyatt Logan. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one. Thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on rolling.
Yes, indeed. And with that, that is all of our Super Chat questions, and huge thanks to everybody tonight for supporting the channel once again, because of course, it is the viewers, which is y'all, that keeps this running, just like PBS, but this is an Enforcer channel. But thank you very much. And with that, we're now moving on to the live chat questions, because of course, you don't have to throw in a Super Chat to get a question answered on the channel. You can simply tag @EnforcerMatt, and we'll get to as many as possible. But first of all, we have the Morse code decoders of the stream. And tonight, it was Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, Paul Schultz, Kevin J, Rumpelstiltskin, David Millsaps, and Toxic Bananas. They said, the Morse for tonight says, from the LSA Signal Corps, Russian forces try a new offensive to get pushed out. Long live the LSA will never die.
And ding, ding, that is the sound of money, and that is dead on the nail. Y'all got the Morse code message of the night correct. I gotta congratulate y'all for getting that correct on the 827th day of the war and being here with us again as we cover a big news night, a historical night at that. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well about y'all's Morse code deciphering and y'all's abilities. And with that, we are now back into the Super Chats because we got another Super Chat, and then we'll be getting on into the rest of the live chats proper.
So this one goes to Destiny Edgington. And thank you very much, Destiny, for that $10 support. And she said, is Ukraine playing Ring Around the Kerch Bridge?
Yeah, they kind of are. I don't know why I had to laugh like that. I laughed like a goblin. But yes, they are playing Ring Around the Kerch Bridge. Because they're hitting Taman, they're hitting the Kerch Strait ferry crossings. They're hitting everything around the bridge but the bridge itself. So I would say, yes. And it's a scary game for the Russians because they're crapping their pants knowing that everything around the bridge is getting hit and the bridge is just sitting there with everything flying over it to hit all the other targets. So with that, I hope that does address that well, and I got to thank you so much for the support, Destiny Edgington, and helping this channel to keep on running, because it is folks like you who help to make this thing possible and help to make this channel a reality. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well, and with that, we are on back to the live chats.
So this live chat question goes to Riddle Me This, who says, have you or the Enforcer heard about Ukraine's new Queen Hornet supersized drone?
I have, and it apparently can carry, I think, 100 kilograms of weight over a pretty considerable distance. It's actually pretty cool. I don't really know a lot more about it than that, and let me just go see if I can type in Queen Hornet drone. There we go. It's at the top of the search results. And let's see here. Wait a minute. I think I'm thinking of something different. I think I'm thinking of a British drone that's going to be provided. Yeah. This is completely different. I'm so sorry. I actually know nothing about this one. Like, I hate to put you down, but I absolutely know nothing about this FPV drone. It's apparently brand new, and I was mistaking it for a British drone that's now being given to Ukraine that can carry supplies to soldiers in remote locations. But sadly, I wouldn't know a lot about this particular drone. And so with that, I hope that at least gives a lack of my ignorance incredibly well. And with that, a huge shout out to Edgar's Vilmanis, who threw in a €5 super chat and said, keep it up. And we will, Edgar's. And thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to be possible. And so with that, we are back into the live chats.
All right, and this next live chat is going to go to Digifix, who says, after its massive assault on Ukraine, Moscow has stumbled in the face of unexpectedly successful resistance, but it fights on. And do you see that Ukraine is starting to get the upper hand?
Yes, they are certainly getting the upper hand. They are obliterating the Russians behind the lines because of a lack of air defense. They pushed the Russians back today in the counteroffensive in Vovchansk town. Overall, things are going incredibly good. I do believe that the Ukrainians are getting the upper hand, and due to the mere fact, not even due to the delivery of American supplies, but due to the mere fact that America is committed to continuing to supply Ukraine with arms and equipment, that in itself has given the Ukrainians an upper hand against the Russians. So I would say, yes, they certainly do. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Plexus Gaming, who says, I just about read his name off again, but Plexus Gaming says, is there anything to the reports that I've heard that the Russian army has started to pull back?
Not really pull back in most areas of the line. They are starting to pull back, if you want to call it that, in Vovchansk, but it's really more so that they're getting pushed back. It's not a retreat or anything. They're just getting pushed back by sheer force of the Ukrainian offensive. So I would say yes in Vovchansk, no in any other area of the front line. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Andy L., who says, it hurts Russia's summer counteroffensive if they can't get supplies across. Is that correct?
Absolutely. It would hurt any kind of operations that they plan on conducting, even if they were defensive operations, if their supply lines start to be seriously damaged or knocked out by Ukrainian artillery fire, or any kind of Ukrainian bombings that would occur behind the line. So the answer to that is yes. Russian battle activities, whether offensive or defensive in nature, would be heavily affected by a critical lack of supplies by Ukrainian attacks on the Kerch Strait and the Kerch Bridge. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Jaya Turner, who said, if Russia had gone total war from the beginning, would they have been more of a threat? Or would it have just been even more of an embarrassment? And what do you think?
It probably would have been more of an embarrassment. I would say that they probably would have ended up taking more ground. But at the same time, they would have still ended up in the stalemate they're in today. That's what I would certainly have to say about that. Because, yeah, they would have taken more ground, sure, but, you know, you can take all the ground you want and then end up in this kind of a situation, and it didn't really matter, did it? And that's what I would have to believe. And also, on top of that, going into a state of total war, like even if they began the war, they have to mobilize after beginning the war, because if they mobilize before the war, they're tipping everyone off that they are going to be going to war if they entered a state of total war before going into a war. So they would have to start off the war like they did initially and then declare total war a few months later. So even still, they're kind of going off of the same principle. So I don't really think it would have changed much of anything, to be quite honest. It would have just been an even bigger embarrassment because they would have officially declared war and they would have officially been losing an actual war, even by their own definition. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Uncovered Cube, who says, how far and how long do you see Ukraine's counteroffensive going before it gets halted?
Ukraine's counteroffensive, depending on how weakened Russian forces are by the fall when the offensive will begin. Wait a minute. I think you may be talking about the Vovchansk offensive instead of the major offensive that they're planning for late fall or the beginning of next year. The Ukrainians are most likely going to be conducting an offensive operation near Vovchansk to push the Russians all the way out of the Oblast. So I don't think they're going to stop until they push them out, because once the Russians lose any remains of their forces in Vovchansk, there's really no anchor point to hold them in place or stop them from being pushed back all the way to the border. So in my honest opinion, they're going to be pushed all the way out. As far as the offensive in the fall, I wouldn't really know. It really depends on the area where they plan on conducting that offensive and also what their offensive objectives are. Because if they have multiple different prongs to an offensive and they're planning on achieving a really deep objective like Melitopol, I don't think that would be possible. But if they are planning an objective like breaking through its Svatove and then exploiting that breakthrough, that is entirely possible going on in the future, from what I can tell. So with that, I hope that does address that well, and with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next live chat is going to go to Jaka, who says, does Russia have air superiority over Crimea? and I don't hear about Russian jets very much, or have they just simply disappeared?
Russian jets are active in the war in Ukraine and are currently conducting a decent amount of sorties, actually, dropping Fab 500, Fab 1500, and I believe even in rare instances, Fab 3000 glide bombs onto Ukrainian positions. But overall, air superiority over Crimea could be considered contested. Considering that Ukrainian missiles are mostly able to reach and destroy their targets, it would be safe to say that while there is a heavy Russian air presence in the area of Crimea, at least up until today, and there's also a okay amount of air defense there, it isn't enough to stop Ukrainian attacks from ending up being successful. So the best thing we could say about it at the moment is that it is contested airspace, much like the rest of the regions of occupied Ukraine are. It's not like inside of Ukrainian territory, however, the Ukrainians have largely been able to achieve air superiority in the conflict because they are able to shoot down most of Russia's incoming air targets. But as far as it goes over the occupied areas of Ukraine and Crimea, it's more so contested than a clear victor on one side or the other in the air campaigns. So with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Adeptus, who says, how long do you think it'll be before the U.S. allows the full use of U.S. weapons on Russian soil, or do you think it'll never happen?
I think it'll probably happen in about a month. That sounded so certain. I'm not that certain on that. It maybe would happen in a month because we're already hearing that they're allowing at least limited uses of U.S. weapons on Russian soil. So I feel like that is the gateway to allowing American weapons to be used however the Ukrainians would want on Russian soil. So I would say probably within a month or a month and a half. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Stentry, who says, do you think that Ukraine will strike the bridge when Poopler in trench coat and fake mustache comes to check it out?
Well, maybe. That's a good question. Maybe. But you never know. I mean, maybe they would know that Putin was in a mustache, because he would look a little bit like Hitler then, like he really would. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Sphere, who says, drones are effective with reconnaissance and attack roles, and I am for hard counters for them instead of soft counters, as AI can defeat jamming attempts, and do you think so as well?
I would say yes. I think that hard defense against drones, instead of electronic warfare jammers or anything like that, having a way to actually destroy those drones, either with a laser system or with some form of a trophy system, say on a vehicle, would be a lot more effective long-term as a defense strategy, because passive systems will always be overcome. It would be really hard to overcome a kind of laser system. Really, it would be impossible to overcome a laser system. You would just have to find a way to make the drones laser resistant, which would be very tough, if not impossible, here with modern technology. Or you could try and create some kind of a trophy system, which may be overcome in the future, although I'm highly doubting it, because you would require an excessively high amount of speed, and that you can never achieve with an FPV drone, or any other kind of drone for that matter. So, in my opinion, I would say, yeah, I think it would be better to have a hard counter instead of a soft counter. I would agree with you. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And Enforcer, this is the last question that I have in the spreadsheet. We have gone through over 20 live chat questions tonight, a ton of them, actually. And also, someone in the live chat just said that we sound like the guy from Max Velocity Weather.
Oh, thank you.
Interesting. Very fascinating. Thank you. And we have one last question left. So, Enforcer, would you like to do the thing?
And so we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who is the lucky last person to throw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is McKernan, who says, are the Russian troops in Volchansk veteran troops, or are they new troops and new recruits?
It's a mix, actually. It's a mix of new recruits, because we understand that this may be some of the new armies raised in the Leningrad military district. And it's also a mix of what you might want to call veterans, but they're all veterans from Russian operations in Africa. So they're not really veterans of any kind of a conventional war. It's more so asymmetrical war, or veteran of being a warlord. That's the best that we could say about them. So, to be quite honest, it's really a bunch of noobs that are fighting up in this area around Vovchansk and around Lukyansk and Loboke. So, I would be honest, I would say they're all fresh, even if they have any kind of experience in Africa, because experience in Africa is completely different than any kind of experience that you would have around here. But before we round this out, we actually have one last super chat. It's the 20th super chat from Made in Canada 182. And Matthew, what did Made in Canada 182 have to say?
So Made in Canada said, sorry for the late one, and no worries whatsoever.
No worries.
They said, work dragged me away for the last 45 minutes. And goodness, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. If a work drags you away, that's troublesome. They said, when the war is finally over, if the Kerch Bridge is still there, would Ukraine destroy it to cut off Russia?
Good question, Made in Canada. I don't know if they would. To be honest, I'm kind of leaning towards they probably wouldn't. Because, and hear me out, Made in Canada, we need to hear me out. It's a pre-built bridge. Like, destroying it, you would only be losing its potential. All you would have to do is over here, on this side of the bridge, right about here, is create a border checkpoint on the Ukrainian side where they could allow and deny people from entering or going into Ukraine. So I feel like at the end of the war, they probably wouldn't destroy this thing because they might want to have some sort of light trade relations with Russia in the future. And not only that, it's a pre-built, easy way to move goods and people in and out of Russia if they ever wanted to in the future. And while right now it seems like they never probably would, you'll have to remember that the United States in the American War of Independence fought a war against Britain for their independence, won the war at the cost of thousands of lives, and then right after that began to trade with the British again, and completely acted like the whole animosity and hatred that they had built for each other just didn't exist. So it's possible that they may not destroy this thing if it still stands at the end of the war. Or it may be that they never plan on having anything to do with the Russians in the future, which is also highly likely, and then they end up demolishing the bridge for that reason all the way up to the point where it crosses into Russian waters, about right here. But I don't know. We'll have to see. Honestly, though, I'm kind of leaning towards they probably wouldn't destroy it. But at the same time, I could see a good argument for destroying it just for the symbolic fact of it alone. But with that, I hope that does address that well. And I thank you so much once again for your 20th super chat ever, Made in Canada 182. And I also thank you for helping this channel to keep on running, because folks like you help to make this thing possible. And with that, we have reached the end of tonight's stream. I've got to thank each and every single one of y'all for watching. Tonight, at the peak, we had about 9.9 thousand people here, and 60,000 people have watched this stream before it ended. And I have to say, like I say every single night, that we are entirely honored and entirely humbled to know that all of y'all have picked this channel to be your primary source of news. If y'all have enjoyed this channel, make sure to subscribe, make sure to like, make sure to comment, because it makes us really happy to see that and helps us to inspire ourselves and continue to keep this channel running. Not only that, but if you enjoyed this stream, we run the stream 6 days a week like clockwork every day but Monday. We also, as another big thing, we also make short war summary videos, and the one we made today apparently was very popular. People really liked it because it's gotten up to 192,000 views at this point, and it's pretty well viewed, and I thank everyone for watching that as well. And of course, with that, I will see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine. Good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die.
Indeed. The Lee Spring Army shall never die. And with that, thank you all once again for another great stream. And of course, be sure to go check out officialenforcerstore.com and go check out those t-shirts that have the LSA Eagle on it, which look really sick in multiple different colors and 100% cotton. And it's a nice gilded shirt. I had to go through all the specs. And also go check out that patch, by the way, as well. Super cool patch, 3D, PVC, great for hats and backpacks and things like that, and tactical gear, because, you know, tactical is the buzzword for everything these days. It's tactical. But with that, thank you all for another great stream. We'll see you all tomorrow night, and Slava Ukraine, Herom Slava, and good night.
Yes. The Lee Spring Army sends its regards.